It's the Luzerne County Board of Elections and Registration. Is that coming back? Let me try it. No, I still hear it. Okay. Can you hear it? Yeah. Test, test, test. Can you hear it? I think it is. Yeah, I don't hear it anymore. Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. So I'm calling the meeting to order. It's the Luzerne County Board of Elections and Registration regular meeting of October 9th, 2024. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll have roll call. Ms. Fusaro?
Here.
Mr. Morelli?
Here.
Mr. Schlosser?
Here.
Mr. Schramm?
Here.
And Ms. Williams here, all present. I'd like to notify the public of two executive sessions the board has held. The first one, October 3rd, 2024, from 11:03 a.m. to 11:31 a.m. for the purpose of the discussion of litigation regarding the ballot drop boxes. No deliberation took place. The second one was just before this meeting on October 9th, 2024. It was from 5:10 p.m. to 5:45 p.m. For the purpose of drop box security, and no deliberation took place. Okay, next we'll move to the adoption of the agenda. I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda. And I'm making the motion to remove number 2. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 I'm not sure if I heard Mr. Morelli. And Ms. Fusaro?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, number 2 is removed. Is there a motion to adopt the amended agenda?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Motion made.
The
by
amended
The
agenda.
amended agenda by Mr. Schlosser. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Schramm. All in favor, say aye.
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 Abstentions? Opposition? None heard. We'll move on to public comment on agenda items. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board on matters listed on the agenda. It's limited to 3 minutes and 1 comment time per person. We'll start with those who are in person. And when you come forward, please state your name and your municipality. Okay. Is there anyone here go ahead. Go ahead.
Linda Joseph Wilkes-Barre. I'd like to speak to agenda item number 4, the polling place for Ward 19 and 20, which are the last 2 wards to be approved from the county. I am the committee person for Ward 19, and I wanted to thank the Bureau and especially Mr. Hahn for all the work that he put into trying to find us a location in Rolling Mill Hill. Since we weren't able to go to the school, which used to be at Dotson, we had a very difficult time trying to find somewhere that was suitable, met regulations, whatever, was needed. It was a challenge for sure. And I offered my help because I've lived there all my life and I pretty much had an idea of what buildings were there and what weren't. And so he drove around, called places, and we tried to, secure some place that was going to work. And finally, we did for the 100 Parish Street, which is going to be in the near future, the south branch of the Oosterhout Library. Luckily, we were not ready to move into that yet. So it is available and they have agreed to let us use that building, which is perfect for it. It all works out. We also had the cooperation of Mayor Brown and Fire Chief Delaney to work out some things with parking outside and handicap. So I'm just asking, please approve it so that we can get the information out from the Bureau to the residents, because a lot of them don't even know we're going to change locations at this point. So yeah, just, please, that it's a good spot. And the only other thing is that it will only be that spot for this election, because we will be running a full branch of the library sometime in November on. So it could be a problem for the future elections, that there needs to be someplace that you may just want to keep that in mind. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your cooperation and help with that too. Sure. Okay, is there anybody else in person who would like to speak? Yes, go right ahead.
Good evening, board. I want to speak about item number 1. It's on your agenda. I strongly encourage this board to vote in the affirmative to remove these drop boxes from the county, to eliminate all drop boxes in Luzerne County, which is a motion that's on the table for the consideration of the board. I have some serious concerns, as the board noted from my recent correspondence to this board regarding the security of these boxes. I'm not opposed to drop boxes. I want to make that perfectly clear to everybody who's listening to my comments tonight. I'm opposed to the fact that these boxes are not secure according to the guidance by the state. The guidance that this board passed was back in 2022. That guidance has been revised since 22 to 23. I gave the chair a copy of my concerns as the controller, that these guidelines are not being followed by this board, and giving that direction to the Bureau. This board is responsible, the board, not the Bureau, be clear, is responsible to instruct the Bureau on how they want these boxes to be secure. That direction is not given to the Bureau correctly. If they're following resolution number 2022, that's not correct. That's your resolution. That provision has been revised in 2023 by the Department of State. One of the things that's critical is there's no seal on those boxes on the doors. If that box is tampered with or that door is open between the time those ballots were collected and the time they were collected the next time, you would not know somebody opened that door unless you watch surveillance camera. That seal is very important. That was one of the critical recommendations of the Department of State and the advisory board, the Election Law Advisory Board. That's not being followed. The Board of Elections is supposed to collect those ballots. That's another recommendation in 23. A member of the Board of Elections collects the ballots, not two sheriffs, not somebody from the Bureau of Elections, a Board of Elections member. It's clear that's not happening. Those ballots are supposed to be collected every single day, not when we feel like it, not when we think the box is full. I've been downstairs and there have been ballots placed in that drop box every day, and those ballots have not been collected by this Bureau because they haven't gotten a direction from this board. This board wants to make decisions to the Attorney General and have the Attorney General render decisions that says this board is responsible to implement drop boxes because your decision says to put them there. Then you need to be responsible for that decision. And that responsibility belongs to the board, not to the Bureau. So follow your recommendations from the state. Do what you're supposed to do to put drop boxes in place. Stop tampering with the election integrity grant, saying we're going to take money from there for sheriffs. It's not even in the recommendation from the Department of State. There's nothing in the recommendation that says you have to have armed sheriffs or anybody watching these boxes. Nothing. And that board is tasked with making sure those boxes are secure, but they don't think it's appropriate to have a sheriff there.
Thank
But
you
we
very
think
much.
so.
Your time is up. Thank you. Next, anybody else in person like to speak? Go right ahead.
Joe Grantee, Plains Township. I just want to expand a little bit on what Walter just talked about, the seal on the boxes. We all know that we had a seal problem in 2022 when there was missing paper from the printers. Nobody was interested in solving the seal problem. I demonstrated that the box could be opened and the seal not broken. And this board did not care about it. You didn't care about it. I brought it to the attention of the Bureau, the board, 4 or 5 times. They finally had a demonstration and swept it under the rug. Okay. I was the only one there on my side and everybody else was there as a deterrent to what I was trying to show. Anyway, that's my comment on the seals. They're not secure. I also like to speak on number 7. I've come to probably a couple dozen of these meetings, never once filled out a paper, because what I speak about is what I hear you people talk about. And that's what I come up talk about. So I can't guess in advance what I want to say. It all comes naturally through the meeting. I don't think it's a good idea to have the paperwork done beforehand. I don't think it's fair to most of the people here because we respond to what council or what the election board is talking about. Okay. And number 8, I'm not sure where we stand with the Zoom. I think it's a positive addition. I hate to see it go because there are a lot of knowledgeable people that use the Zoom to add to the conversation at our meetings. And I don't think it's a good idea to get rid of it.
Thank you very much. Next, anybody else in person like to speak? I don't see any hands up on. Okay, go ahead. Just state your name, municipality, and the agenda item you'll be speaking on.
It's Robin Koshan, Dallas Township, agenda item number 1. As repeatedly expressed, we do not support drop boxes in any election, past, present, or future. Drop boxes invite unaccountable voter fraud. Supporters cry voter disenfranchisement when eliminating them. So we ask, were they disenfranchised before drop boxes were used? If voting is so sacred to them, did they previously make the effort to vote in person or by absentee ballot if necessary? Papergate voters and those whose ballots were thrown in the trash are valid disenfranchised voters, yet how much credence have they been given? Let's get this straight. Eliminating drop boxes does not disenfranchise anyone's vote. Contrary to theatrics, it is not taking away anyone's vote. Eliminating drop boxes helps protect election integrity. Period. You've repeatedly been told that many countries do not allow drop boxes due to voter fraud, and of documented cases that mail-in and absentee ballots are the tool of choice for voter fraud versus in-person at the polls accountability. So if your charge is ensuring free and fair elections, forcing drop boxes that only invite fraud is beyond comprehension and erodes public trust. Knowing of the county manager's safety concerns and your PPE requirement for staff interacting with drop boxes acknowledges you are putting them in harm's way. Prioritizing Dropbox fraud opportunities over human safety and election integrity is flagrantly irresponsible both to our citizens and the democracy for which opponents so loosely cry wolf. Dropboxes should not even be an issue when there are far greater concerns, such as election workers being overworked and not being properly trained or educated to provide correct information. Please get rid of the Dropboxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in person like to speak? Go ahead.
TJ Fitzgerald, Newport Township. Again, on the drop boxes, I don't agree with drop boxes, nor do I agree on mail-in ballots for obvious reasons, but a couple of different things as far as disenfranchisement. A couple of things I heard from last meeting was that they don't trust the mail, so they need the drop boxes. So let me get this straight. You trust the mail to get to you, but you don't trust the mail to get it back. Okay. Number two, the handicap issue. The handicap issue, I showed my feet that I lost 3 toes. I just lost another one last week. I'm insulted that you think that handicapped people can't figure out a way to get someplace or to get someplace on time. It's insulting to the whole handicapped community. I also called, what I called you, Walter, what's the place that's? Shared Ride. Shared Ride can get anybody to the Election Bureau. That's a county program. All you have to do is call, apply, and they could get you a ride. So the county has options. Taxis go. I mean, every time we go to a supermarket or a mall, I see a whole lot of blue spaces marked for me and people like me. I have them in front of the Election Bureau. We have in-person voting. We can get there. I think the only 2 suggestions is, number one, if you do keep the drop boxes, you also have that sheriff where if we're having election integrity for everybody and no one's disenfranchised, we have to treat those drop boxes just like we have the polling place. We should have a voter roll. The people should be trained. And if a person wants to use the drop box, they should be asked, what's your name? They check on the voter roll. 1 person, 1 vote per 1 person. If they're going to be dropping more than 1, you have to have that form that says you're approved to do that. Then we could have some integrity at the drop boxes. I also say that we should put a 4x8 sign out there telling people in English and Spanish the legalities of the drop box, who can, who can't, and the penalties if you do fraud. This way, it disenfranchises illegal voters and helps legal voters. So that's the drop boxes.
Thank you. Anybody else in person like to speak?
Jamie Walsh, Ross Township. Number 7, to change the format of public comment, and number 9, to amend your bylaws to allow out-of-county residents to speak. Both of these decisions, this is why I got in a yelling match with you that one night. Both of these decisions that you're making have been already rolled in Marshall v. Amuso in 2021. The lawsuit was filed. You can't force somebody to sign in. It's called compelled speech. It's unconstitutional. The case is already settled. Pennsbury School District paid a $300,000 fine to the litigants. So I just want you to know, number 7 and number 9, doesn't matter what you do, you can't stop anybody. The reason you can't stop anybody, if your bylaws say that taxpayers are allowed to speak at a meeting, Luzerne County gets state and federal funding. We're all state and federal taxpayers. So you can't stop someone to speak, no matter how much you would like to. You can't do it. The problem is nobody's just sued you yet. So number 7 and 9 really does, you guys can vote on it or not on it. You can't stop anyone to speak. You can't ask the guards to pull somebody out of here if they're speaking, because they're taxpayers. And because we receive federal and state funding, That is why it's allowed. It was settled in Marshall via Muso in 2021. So I don't know where you're going with that. And as far as drop boxes are concerned, you all know the concerns with drop boxes. There's a faction of the Democrat Party that wants to cheat. I mean, let's just face it. Let's call a spade a spade. Everybody dances around the issue. Multiple ballots being thrown in drop boxes never gets investigated. There's never the one from even the primary. One lady takes 4 ballots and throws them in a drop box, doesn't get investigated, or maybe it's under investigation. Who knows? We can't get video evidence from the county from the last time you ran a flawed election in 2022. Nobody trusts this county. So let's call a spade a spade. This is orchestrated chaos in our elections, and we're not having it anymore. Thank you.
If I may, just to clarify on number 9, the motion is to allow people to speak, not to not allow.
That's allowed now.
Right.
Okay, anybody else in person like to speak? Go ahead.
Audrey Cernak, Plains Township. Good evening. I'd like to comment on several items. First, number 1, drop boxes. I do support them and I hope the board will vote to retain them. Unfortunately, I've seen the suggestion that has been made if a board member votes to retain the boxes, they will somehow be complicit in if anything happens involving their use. That's not true. The person tampering with the boxes or otherwise interfering with their use will be committing a crime and will be solely responsible for breaking the law. I do want to commend Manager Kokomo for her commitment to election security. She's been working to improve the security surrounding the elections since she was acting manager. Warehouse security to prevent compromising the warehouse, whether by intrusion of unauthorized people or by HVAC failures, has been ongoing under her leadership for years. Likewise, Bureau security has been beefed up. This commitment extends to the box drops. If anything occurs, it will not be Manager Kokomo's fault, but that of the people committing the crime. Okay, on to item number 4. Just briefly, the polling place changes. Kudos to the Bureau and the hosts of the polling places. I know a lot of work was needed to arrange for the new locations. Changing them was necessary for the safety and security of our local students and all those voting in person on election day. Number 6, curing. Hope the board will continue to cure the ballots and if possible, provide the curing list to the parties on Monday, the Monday before election. And this could give more people a chance to vote. Again, number 9, allowing non-county residents to comment. This is difficult as some people think allowing everyone to comment is a First Amendment issue. I certainly don't want to impede anyone's right to free speech. The solicitor will have to speak about that. I do worry that our out-of-county speakers will allow bad actors to impede the meetings. I do think that since Luzerne County Board of Elections and Registrations, it's the Luzerne County Board of Elections and Registration. Luzerne County residents should have priority speaking both in person and on the Zoom platform. Out-of-county residents do have their own boards to monitor and can easily email the board with any concerns or best practices. I hope this can be resolved to everyone's benefit. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in person like to speak? Go ahead.
Good evening, board members. My name is Andrea Glott. I'm from Wilkes-Barre. I just want to make a couple of comments on number 1. First of all, there are 30 states that are using either required or broadly used drop boxes. In those 30 states, according to the Brennan Center for Justice, voter fraud related to ballots sent by mail or put in drop boxes is so rare that multiple analyses have shown that it is more likely someone will be hit by lightning than commit mail ballot fraud. Donald Trump in 2022 said, "Drop boxes, best idea I've ever heard in a long time. Put them all over the place, RNC. Every Republican get to work on this now." Pennsylvania PBS, none of the election offices in in any states that have allowed the use of drop boxes in 2022 reported any instance in which the boxes were connected to voter fraud or stolen ballots. I'd like to close with a cartoon that appeared in today's Citizen's Voice called Non Sequitur. It's a picture of Moses, and he's attempting to stop social media before it gets started. He says, facts are not opinions, and opinions are not facts. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in person? Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Gene Ziemba from Harvey's Lake. I want to thank Manager Crocomo for sending me a letter to also to the chair of the Democrat Party, chair of the state Republican, chair of the state Democrat Party, to come in and view. I put 3 calls into your office. Thank you. Yesterday or 2 days ago, Ms. Cook did a very nice job giving us the lowdown on the safety of the voting process, and I appreciate it. She shared that you all have 1 million pieces of paper ready to go, 1.2 million pieces of paper, but I called you too, Ms. Cook. I talked to a gentleman at 11:59 that day. I still haven't heard from you because I had a question on we're about 2,000 registrations behind. Is that registrations and or mail-in votes? My registrations. Thank you. And I know you all worked very hard about it. I will also share with you, I live at Harvey's Lake, as aforementioned, and when it's raining, I get off the lake because I might be hit by lightning. Just because someone says something is safe, secure, and convenient doesn't mean it's true. I'm going to echo the person who was here right before me. The nature of leaving drop boxes or whatnot out in the middle of nowhere or in the middle of unsecured territory is inherently not secure. I think we've got a very good system. You know what's really convenient? Hundreds and hundreds of mailboxes that my 88-year-old mom can drive up to, not get out of her car. That's pretty convenient. And not get out of her car. That's pretty safe. And drop her ballot in the mailbox. And yes, Donald Trump may or may not have said, put out drop boxes, but that was during COVID. Whether you believe in COVID or not, it's over. And so it was an emergency response. Drop boxes were emergency response to COVID. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in person like to speak? Go ahead.
Hi, Jennifer Ziemba, Harvey's Lake Borough. My question really is regarding the mail-in ballots. Have they all been mailed to everyone in the county? So when you go onto your portal and it doesn't show that one's been mailed to you, why is that? Because I requested one on February 5th and mine was processed on February 5th, 2024. And mine is showing that I still haven't been mailed one at this date.
I don't know the answer to that. I would refer that to the Election Bureau leadership.
So again, I'm not sure. I know we spoke about this yesterday. And
Yes.
I'm not sure why it's not showing that.
It's still
because-
not showing.
Right. I'm not sure. I can check into it, but you
Well,
received
what
an
if
app-
this
you-
is thousands of people who have requested mail-in ballots? What if that's the same thing for not me, but thousands of people?
Right. So the controller actually had this issue as well, where he noted that his ballot hadn't been mailed out. And all it was a utility to show that the ballot was mailed. You received a ballot application in February, which was processed, and I'm assuming you received your ballot in the April primary election, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You would automatically be receiving your ballot for the November election, so we don't even need to process the new application.
Right.
at
Well,
this
that's what
point.
it says online.
Right.
I'm just saying, that's what it says online.
Yeah,
When I
so-
go on and check on it.
I'll see what the the holdup is with that utility, because like I said, it was a 5-minute fix to confirm that the ballot we knew had already been issued.
So I should have it by the end of the week and it might not show up in the computer. So my fear is,
Ma'am, do
all
you
of-
have anything else that's agenda item related? This is agenda item, public comment. If
well,
you have something not agenda item, which I kind of let this go.
are
it
mail-in
can-
ballots on the agenda? Because I'm sorry, I don't have a
actually,
copy. I didn't get
It
one.
isn't, but you could do it at the second public comment
Okay,
additionally. But if there's
I'll come
anything
again.
else on the agenda, you're certainly welcome to
No, I'll
continue.
come.
Okay. Anybody else in person? I don't see any other hands up in person, so we're going to move to the Zoom platform. I see several hands. We'll start from the top down here. Anita Davis.
Yes, Anita Davis, Wilkes-Barre. The only threat that people have with the drop boxes is from those people who do not want the drop boxes. When I have gone to the poll, I have been threatened by such people, and these people carry guns. So it's my right to have a secure drop box available for me to use, because the mail is messed up because they have Postmaster DeJoy running the post office, and he was put there by their man to destroy the mail-in ballot system. I had 4 bills lost in the US mail just this past month, one of them being my school taxes. So therefore I couldn't pay it on the quarter. I had to go in and pay the full amount. Now, how's my mail-in ballot gonna make it if I place it in the mail? So I want my drop box. And last night the vote was voted no to provide extra protection for poll workers. So a lot of and they were told that if anything happens at the polls to call the cops. I don't know if any of these people have had incidents with the cops. Sometimes they take over an hour to show up, if they show up at all. So that's not the answer. Also, how are college students going to put their applications in if they're out of town for school? And how are they going to make them in? How are the ballots going to come in time if they're out of town at school? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Brianna Ribka.
Brianna Ripka, Fairmont Township, agenda item number 1. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brianna Ripka. I'm the Voter Services Coordinator for the State League of Women Voters of Pennsylvania, as well as a proud voter in Luzerne County. Thank you for allowing me to speak again about the matter that is crucial for our democracy, the importance of preserving ballot drop boxes in our community. These drop boxes are essential for assuring that every voter has a secure and convenient way to cast their ballot. Their successful use in Luzerne County has garnered significant support from hundreds of residents, and it's vital that our board and county manager pay attention to this feedback. I want to address the concerning trend, the back and forth decisions regarding the use of ballot drop boxes. This issue has already led to legal challenges, and continuing to pursue an ordinance that undermines their use could result in serious consequences, including potential legal repercussions for those involved. It's puzzling to consider why we want to revisit a situation that could lead us to further litigation and potentially result in legal consequences for public officials. Instead of creating unnecessary conflict, we should be focusing on what benefits our community and promotes voter participation and democracy. It's important to recognize that ballot drop boxes are not the same as regular mailboxes. They are specifically designed to facilitate the voting process and provide secure alternative for those who might face challenges with traditional voting methods. Unlike mailboxes, drop boxes strategically are placed for easy access and safety, allowing voters to submit their ballots without any unnecessary risks. While we currently have 2 drop boxes, this is insufficient given the size of our community and the diverse needs of our voters. We need to ensure that more drop boxes are available, ideally in locations that are accessible to everyone to truly serve our population effectively. Many residents, including myself, face significant challenges just to access our mail. For instance, I have to walk across an incredibly busy highway where tractor trailers speed at 60 miles per hour. Not everyone has these issues, but for us, Living outside the city, this is a serious concern. My mailbox is literally in a ditch. If you take a look around at the rural areas of our county, you will see dozens of mailboxes that present accessibility challenges. We need to take these issues seriously and recognize the struggles of voters who are trying to participate in our democracy. Now let's talk about urgency. I said the same thing 2 weeks ago, and here we are. Just 26 days until the election. 26 days until the election. The prospect of removing drop boxes at this late stage raises serious concerns. Such abrupt changes can create confusion among voters and risk disenfranchising those who relied on these crucial resources. I urge the county manager and the board to carefully consider the implications of these decisions. Upholding and potentially expanding access to ballot drop boxes, not just maintaining the current two, aligns with the desire of our community and reinforces our dedication to democratic principles. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Mark Schaefer? Mark Schaefer? Go ahead. Can you hear me? Mark Schaefer? Okay, we'll move on. And I think we just lost him actually. JN?
Yeah, sorry. This is Jay Noto Tomaso from West Wyoming. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so I'm not sure the item numbers. As far as allowing others outside the county to speak, I'm a hard no to that. These meetings are long enough. You guys represent the voters in this county, and I just definitely opposed to people from outside the county coming and speaking. As far as Zoom, I am hoping that you keep Zoom as an option. Luzerne County is a huge county, so to travel in person to these meetings, it's just impossible for some people, and not to mention people with disabilities. As far as the drop boxes, I think that's item number one. I use drop boxes. It is my preferred way to vote. I want to encourage you all to vote to keep the drop boxes in place. They have been used many years now, not just in Luzerne County, but all over the country. No significant issues have occurred. They are just as safe as mailboxes, if not more. The mail can be slow and make them arrive too late, whereas a drop box, all those are counted, even if you get to one on election day. Please don't let the voter suppression far-right MAGA crowd, and this is exactly the people who are here opposed to this. Please do not let them sway your vote. They try to raise the temperature, use fear tactics, and then they use the high temperature as a reason to get people to surrender, which is exactly what happened right this past 2 weeks here. Thankfully, it was stopped. Also, Jamie Walsh worrying about cheaters is hysterical. The big lie, which started with the MAGAs in 2020 and resulted in an insurrection and attacks on our Constitution, has a through line to these exact people here trying to fight and suppress the vote. They just can't accept the fact that they lost, and they only complain when they lose elections. Every instance of voter fraud in Pennsylvania was attributed to Trump voters, and they were caught. Please be strong, do the right thing, vote for the boxes, and encourage everyone to vote. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to, that's the second public comment where it was mentioned about canceling the Zoom platform. That's not what the agenda item is. It's disabling the Q&A button within the Zoom platform. So that comes automatically as a default with the Zoom platform. So that's what we're going to talk about, is that Q&A app on the Zoom, not the Zoom platform. That's not it.
I would discourage a chat. People are just going to fight. I think I don't think that's what people should be coming to these meetings for, is to fight in a chat room.
Okay, thank you. The next person would be Ben Herring.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Well, I'm glad you clarified that, because I was going to say, if you get rid of Zoom,
just
Ben
state your
Herring, Duryea,
municipality.
Ben Herring, Duryea.
Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Well, if you get rid of the Zoom platform, all the basement dwellers aren't going to be able to come on here at night. Unfortunately for me, I don't get home from work till late, so I sometimes have to call in, but I at least show up in person every once in a while. Anywho, another day, another dollar, another group of theatrics that we hear on this meeting, unfortunately. To go with what Mr. Walsh already said, number 7, I believe it is compelled speech. I will not be signing in next time. I will purposely come in person. I will not sign in, and I'll wait for you guys to not let me speak, and then we'll file a lawsuit and we'll go through this whole motion again. So like he said, no matter what you do, if you want to pursue that option, it's already been litigated. We'll be happy to litigate it again on behalf of the citizens of Luzerne County. Secondly, the newspaper has reported on this. This issue is a political issue. Let's call a spade a spade. It's Republicans more often than not that do not want drop boxes because they've seen the fraud. They've seen all the instances of fraud. It's Democrats who are pushing hardcore for it, to include the chairwoman of this body in front of us. It's probably going to be a 3-2 vote tonight. We already know that because it's a partisan issue, right? So if we're going to talk about where people fall on this issue, the newspaper has reported consistently that we have shown up with greater numbers. So if you want to talk about what the constituents and the citizens of Luzerne County want, we do not want drop boxes. There's a referendum coming. You're going to see it in November when Donald Trump gets reelected, and you're going to see it next year when the elections happen in our county. But what's going to happen when the shoe's on the other foot? How are you guys going to like that? Let's see if bipartisanship actually matters tonight, or if you're going to go with your political agendas. Finally, Wally Zimmelong has already sent a legal notice to this county about our position on drop boxes. If you deploy them and you don't have the resources to secure them, there will be litigation coming your way as well. It's not a one-way road. And you're going to find that out if they're deployed and there's not somebody watching them 24/7. Thank you.
Thank you. There's somebody on iPhone 7. Go ahead if you're iPhone 7.
I think that's me.
Okay. Your
Hannah
name and municipality and the agenda item.
Yep, I'm Hannah Butterwick, and I'm in Dallas Township, and the agenda item is about drop boxes. I just wanted to speak in full support of the board members who are continuing to fight for mail ballot drop boxes. I'm immunocompromised, and so is my daughter. It's the way that we prefer to vote to keep ourselves safe. It's also very helpful because I'm a mom of 2 little kids, so it's difficult to bring them with me places. I just wanted to say thank you for everything that you've been doing to protect that right. I know my grandmother also uses it, and it's just very, very needed in our county. It's unfortunate that we have to keep standing up and speaking and yelling because it feels like no one's listening and they just want to accuse fraud and things like that. But there are a lot of people here that need it and who are speaking up and using our voice as loud as we can. So we appreciate you and thank you very much.
Thank you. Rick Davis.
Rick Davis, Black Creek Township. I just want to talk about the ballot drop boxes for a moment here. United States Postal Service just endorsed Kamala Harris. Now, I don't think for a moment that if the United States Postal Services didn't think that their mailboxes were secure enough to count the votes that they want or bring in the votes that they want for Kamala Harris, they would not have endorsed her. So drop boxes aren't needed. The United States Postal Service, they want their girl to win. So what's the big deal?
Anything else?
That's all.
That's all. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Lisa Napersky.
Hi, my name is Lisa Napersky. I am a resident of Fairview Township. I wanted to speak on item number 1 and I don't understand what the last comment the last person just made. I don't think that U.S. Post Office endorses candidates. Maybe he means the union workers may have, but anyway, my point is just that I want to reiterate some of the other speakers who spoke in favor of and thanking you for keeping the drop boxes in our county. There is a lot of nonsensical comments about widespread fraud and that Democrats want to commit fraud. And that's why we want people who are Democratic want drop boxes. And there's absolutely no evidence to support any of those claims. And drop boxes are not partisan. They benefit all voters. They benefit everyone. I know many voters who use drop boxes. I have used a drop box once when, and it was a year when the mail ballots got out a little later than usual. And I felt very comfortable putting my ballot in a box that I knew was going to be make it in times and my vote would count. And the only other comment I wanted to make is that I have all the faith in the world in Luzerne County officials to secure the drop boxes. There's a very limited number of them. They're located in secure places. Somebody said that they're out in the middle of nowhere, which is not true. And again, thank you for all that you've been doing. And I know it's a lot of hard work for the board. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Schaefer?
I'm back. Can you hear me this time?
Yes, yes, we can. You just state your name, municipality,
Sorry.
and the agenda. Go ahead.
Mark Schaefer, Wilkes-Barre. On the mailbox, drop boxes. I slipped up and said mailboxes because I'm going to make the same point I've made before. The people who come here and say that drop boxes aren't secure say, therefore you must vote at a mailbox. A mailbox is literally, when you talk, someone said drop boxes are out in the middle of nowhere. Mailboxes are literally just out on the corner. Like I'm out walking my dog right now. There's one on the corner of two streets. There's no cameras on it. There's no guard watching it. Whereas drop boxes are inside the Bureau of Elections building, are in a complex with a guard there. Like if you're worried about security, you should love drop boxes. The point here is that they're using it as a red herring. They really just don't want mail-in voting at all. And they want to go to in-person voting because, as we saw from 2020, when they do mail-in voting, it rapidly increases the number of people who vote. People have at every meeting said, was it voter disenfranchisement when we didn't have mail-in voting? Yes. There's a reason that voter turnout has been higher every year since we got mail-in voting than it was before, because it makes it easier to vote. In 2021, it was higher than it was before. 2022, 2023, every year it's been higher because it makes it easier to vote. So these people are really, they claim it's about security, but really they just don't want certain types of people voting. And this is about making sure that, as they say themselves, as Mr. Herring said himself, it's about making sure his guy Donald Trump wins. Like these people are openly coming here and saying why they want to do this. I don't think we should take them seriously. And you should also keep in mind the other things that the people are saying. Like one of the guys who came here on top of saying absurd things about drop boxes said, if you believe COVID is real or not. So to give you an idea of the type of people that you're dealing with when you deal with people who are anti-drop boxes, they believe in a wide array of conspiracy theories. And when you side with them, you're siding with these conspiracy theories. If you think COVID is real or that facts are facts, you should probably vote in favor of drop boxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Rabo?
Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Mark Rabo of Hazelton. I find it very hypocritical of the far left. And you know what? I'll say it for any extremist group, because any extremist who thinks that this country was not based on the rule of law and on the premise of one ballot, one voter, one ballot is an extremist. If you don't believe in it, you're not for democracy. You're actually against democracy. In fact, you're for militant socialism or fascism. Take your pick. Because this state, the Keystone, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is the Keystone State. Actually, our Constitution, the state Constitution, was based was the one of the documents that created it as the founding fathers used to draft the U.S. Constitution. I don't know if these socialist Marxists know that, and also because in their diatribes they say that our country is our federal government is based on a pure democracy, not as a constitutional republic. I think the socialist Marxists need to take a 7th or 8th grade civics course, because in Federalist Paper number 10, Thomas Jefferson said that the reason our country is a constitutional republic and not a pure democracy is because pure democracies always descend into mob rule. And the socialist Marxists prove that point. It is the picture perfect personification of that point that Thomas Jefferson made. That being said, Madam Chair, how many times do I have to say this, that the mail-in ballot law, Act 77 of 2019, does not establish the use for mail drop boxes? You said it yourself on Monday in front of the Government Study Commission. So therefore, any ballots that are dropped in those drop boxes aren't considered valid. And just because you think, because of the progressive Stepford wives on the state Supreme Court giving a judicial fiat and edict allowing for mail-in drop boxes does not make that statutorily mandated. Regardless of what Attorney General, the lame duck, I should say, Attorney General Michelle Henry says, there's no criminal charges, even by the Commission on Sentencing, that gives any kind of crime sentencing guidelines for mail ballot drop box fraud, unlike U.S. mail fraud, which is 5 years and a $250,000 fine for Mr. Schaefer's knowledge. So just to be clear, members of the board, and also one last thing, Madam Chair, the ballot drop boxes are established by statutes in all those other states. Unlike what the League of Women Voters person said, the law is the law. I believe in the rule of law, not in the rule of mob. Okay. So that being said, I'm not with any extremist group.
Thank you very much.
I'm Mark Rabo. Okay. Thank you very much.
Gilbert.
Hi, everyone. Beth Gilbert, Wilkes-Barre. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I just want to pause for a second and acknowledge the absurdity of this. We are 27 days away from Election Day. Mail-in ballots have already started going out. 2 drop boxes have been deployed, and here we are yet again discussing whether we should remove drop boxes. And for what? These security concerns that have been addressed for years have been addressed through video surveillance, chain of custody protocols, sheriff's deputies collecting the ballots, and other measures that the board voted on back in 2022. We've been running elections with these same safeguards for years without a hitch. And now, just weeks before a major election, we're still talking about this. Not only are you pulling the rug out from under voters, but you're also creating unnecessary burdens for the election staff who should be focused on running a smooth election, not having to anticipate what their operational plan is going to be if the county administration, county council, or the Board of Elections decides at the 11th hour to remove drop boxes. You're also burdening other county departments, like sheriff's deputies and building and grounds, who are all involved in the planning logistics of the drop boxes. You're pulling them away from county needs with the constant back and forth of uncertainty. Additionally, you have sown absolute chaos and distrust in your own elections processes. The Pennsylvania Attorney General had to step in to threaten criminal penalties against the county manager because of her overstep. State legislators have addressed this. Statewide and national press have and are continuing to report on this because of the absurdity of it all. The county administration is using taxpayer money to defend themselves in litigation that is completely preventable by just not usurping the Board of Elections. If you love and care about this county, then why are you destroying the integrity of it from the inside? What are you gaining from all this? This constant back and forth doesn't just confuse voters, it's a complete distraction for the Bureau of Elections staff. If you truly cared about election integrity, then you would allow them to focus on the critical work that they need to do as we inch closer to a presidential election. Why are we diverting attention and resources from what truly matters here? Ensuring a well-run election where every eligible voter can cast their ballot safely and securely. Drop boxes are secure and they are convenient. And most importantly, they work. It's time to stop pretending that this is about security when there is yet to be any credible evidence presented to support these so-called concerns. The board member who introduced this motion to eliminate drop boxes was quoted as saying, "This is specific to this election and security concerns that we have in the county because of everything we are hearing and seeing," end quote. If that's the case, then what was their reasoning for voting to eliminate drop boxes back in February? I urge the board to reject this motion once and for all. We're less than a month away from Election Day. This is about throwing up last-minute barriers to voting, and voters deserve better than this. Let's stop the distractions and actually get to work for once. Thank you.
Thank you. Dungeness Thermodynamics. Please state your name and municipality. I think we lost them. Okay, is there anyone out in the rotunda that is there anybody out there? I don't know that wants to speak.
Can I speak? I'm on a cell phone.
Oh, go right ahead. State your name, municipality, and your agenda item.
Dino Nanati, Wilkes-Barre City 2. My agenda item is the elimination of the Q&A on the online form. I'm just trying to get some clarification here. Now, are you trying to eliminate when people are on this and you want to get rid of this right now? People are actually speaking. Is that what you guys are trying to eliminate?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
the Q&A,
So
there's a button at the bottom of the Zoom platform. If you look down and it says Q&A and people can chat in it. Like it's like a chat,
Okay,
but
so-
you ask questions. That is what we're talking
So
about.
if somebody's online and they're having trouble with their microphone and they want to speak, how would they? And they could type their question. They type in the Q&A, or is there another function on there to type in their question to get to you?
This happens all the time. It's happened already in our meeting. We lost a couple of people. They signed off, signed back on. I don't know why their microphone wasn't working, and we're not responsible for that. We even have in our legal notices.
Because
we
I'm
have in
just-
our
I'm just-
legal
I'm-
notices that we can't guarantee the technology with the Zoom platform. It's in all of our legal notices that we always state that. So if I've had it happen where my microphone doesn't work on a Zoom, sometimes that happens. But we're going to talk about that Q&A, but continue with what you want to say.
So, okay, so the thing is, the Sunshine Act says if there's a board meeting and there's a public comment section, that the public has the right to comment. So if somebody's online and their microphone doesn't work and they have the ability to type and you won't let them type because you want to disable that Q&A portion, then you would be denying them the right to speak. And then therefore you would be violating the Sunshine Act, right? I would think you would be. Anyway, so that's my thing. If you disable that section for somebody to type a question during the public Q&A, it would be a question for the solicitor. Would you be violating the Sunshine Act to allow somebody the right to ask a question in the public comment, which is their right to do it in the board meeting? So that is my question. So if you eliminate that ability, then legally, would you be in violation of the Sunshine Act? That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, we'll certainly bring that to our solicitor during that section of the agenda. Anybody else? Nobody, there wasn't anybody in the rotunda who wanted to speak? Okay. Anybody else on the Zoom platform? Or if you're on a phone, just jump right in who hasn't spoken?
Yeah, my name is Jay Kaminsky, Fairmont Township. Yeah, so I want to say Mark made a really good point before. You can't take these people serious. These aren't normal citizens here. These are the type of people that probably think Hurricane Milton in Florida right now is caused by Jewish space lasers. So they're not really representative of like even normal Republicans. You know, they're all very far right. And, you know, centrist people just really don't support this kind of extreme craziness and conspiracy theories. We just don't really think like that. You know, I've never really heard so much Orwellian doublespeak in my life today. And, you know, there's just the projection that they're trying to expose here is just absolutely insane. I've never seen people so hysterical. I mean, they're just so emotional, just throwing pretty much anything to a wall to see what will stick.
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt you. What
Yes.
agenda item are you speaking on?
This is about the ballot boxes. I was just talking about, how crazy some of the comments I've heard about and the misinformation that I've heard about the ballot boxes is tonight. It just seems, anyone's throwing anything to the wall to see what they could get to stick. They're pretty much just chickens cut with their heads cut off here, just trying to look for any reason. I've heard that you run from the lake because lightning might strike there. Do you know there's a difference between being directly struck by lightning and being struck on a lake? Obviously, lightning travels in water. That's why you have to be extra cautious on the lake. Yeah, it's just crazy. Democrats, we're being accused of cheating here because we support democracy. I think it's time for everyone to just be a little bit honest and, start admitting that you're scared of certain votes. I mean, just give me a break. Stop trying to mask the racism and the lack of integrity in your heart and souls and that you don't support democracy. And you just really have to support drop boxes here because that's the only way, you could go forward if you're actually a decent human being. I want to end here by a quote by the late, great Woody Guthrie, a great musical artist who wrote This Land Is Your Land. He said, if Jesus were to preach like he did in Galilee, you would lay Jesus Christ in your grave. And I think that's what all you people who don't support ballot boxes should think about tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other hands on the Zoom platform. And so what I'm going to do, I don't see any other phone line. If there's anyone, just jump in. I'll give a second, then I'll move to the emails. Okay, so we have four requests for emails to be read into the record. The first one is from Tom Baldino, Fairview Township. To the members of the Board of Elections and Registration, I wish to have my letter read into the board's official record. The addendum is for the board's use as a historical record. I write to urge all board members to vote against the proposal by Mr. Morelli to eliminate drop boxes for the coming election and for the proposal by Ms. Williams to use drop boxes in November. A vote in favor of Mr. Morelli's proposal gives the terrorists who seek to suppress the vote and undermine our democracy a victory. Concerns have been raised about election security that must be taken seriously. On October 2nd, NBC Nightly News examined this subject, highlighting the extreme measures that many counties around the nation are taking to secure their elections. Manager Crocomo was interviewed about the placement of boulders around Penn Place. Other people interviewed stressed how their security measures were designed to protect voters and encourage participation. Manager Crocomo's decision, however, to remove drop boxes unaddressed in her interview as part of her security protocols will limit turnout. She claims to have the authority to do this, a position which I strongly disagree. But how would the county's voters respond if Manager Crocomo decided, using her newly claimed power, to eliminate all the county's voting precincts because she couldn't guarantee their safety, thereby requiring all voters to cast their ballots at the Penn Place building? The U.S. has conducted elections in times of far greater duress than today. During the Civil War, President Lincoln ordered the first use of absentee ballots to allow Union troops on the front lines to vote in the 1864 presidential election. Hurricanes, earthquakes, and other natural disasters have never thwarted a presidential election. U.S. astronauts in space have been accommodated so they could exercise their franchise. More than ever, our democracy requires maximum participation. Every eligible voter who chooses to vote should not find the path to casting a ballot unnecessarily obstructed. The terrorists who threaten election workers and polling places want to see American democracy fail. Don't help them to achieve their objective. Do the patriotic thing and vote to retain the drop boxes. The second one is Ms. Karen Pientka, and from Wilkes-Barre, PA. I'd like to thank the Board of Elections and Bureau of Elections who work to make our elections fair and secure here in Luzerne County. It's on agenda item, the drop boxes are, again, the drop boxes are being used as a weapon by the far right. It needs to stop. If you don't want to use them, then don't. But don't deny others who have used them as a safe and convenient way to vote since 2020. Even Mr. Trump is encouraging people to vote by mail. So what's the problem? Number 6, notification to cure mail ballots on Monday and Tuesday election day. Will this be done? Number 9, motion to amend out-of-county persons to speak. I strongly object to this as a taxpayer of this county and the widow of a veteran. You are very much taking away our time and voices concerning what matters to your constituents and taxpayers here in this county. And then she asks a question about voting by ballot allowed before October 29th. That's not an agenda item. Claudia Glennon, Salem Township. I think this might be, okay, this is on drop boxes. States that have been exclusively voting by mail and utilizing drop boxes: Oregon since 2000, Washington since 2012, Colorado 2014, Utah since 2019, Hawaii since 2020, California since 2022, Nevada since 2022, Vermont since 2022, District of Columbia since 2023. Registered voter participation averages 67 to 84%. Oregon, as the state utilizing mail ballots the longest, 24 years, voter fraud facts. There have been 38 criminal convictions of voter fraud. Out of 6 million ballots. Could you please mute your microphone? Or a whole bunch of zeros and 624%. Yes, 8 zeros. No amount of repeated lies or hyperbolized indignation counters the actual truth that mail ballots and drop boxes are safe, secure, and allow more registered voters to participate in our election process. Stuffing the ballot box is not in the cards. Each ballot is associated with a barcode, and a fake ballot with a made-up barcode would be rejected by the machine. Everyone gets one vote. Thus, the only reason protests against these measures exist is to suppress the vote, to manipulate the outcome of elections. Please vote to allow all registered voters the opportunity to cast their ballot, whether at the poll, through the mail, or by drop box. And then there's one last one from Alicia Hoffman Mirilovich from Fairview Township. Pennsylvanians have the freedom to choose how they cast their ballots in person on election day, by mail, or by using a drop box. We applaud the Luzerne County Board of Elections for making drop boxes accessible in Luzerne County since 2020. Having said that, here we go again. In recent weeks, Luzerne County Manager Romilda Crocomo made the unilateral decision to eliminate all mail drop boxes for the November 5th, 2024 general election, just weeks before the election. This decision bypassed the Luzerne County Board of Elections. While public pressure, litigation, and a letter from the Pennsylvania Attorney General urged the county manager to reverse course and reinstate drop boxes for this election, there are still officials in county government actively working to eliminate drop boxes for the November election. Drop boxes have been a secure and convenient option for voters in Luzerne County since 2020. The continued attack on drop boxes by county officials disregards the critical importance of voter access. Concerns about security have been repeatedly addressed. In 2022, the Board of Elections passed a resolution that committed the county to securing boxes for the voters of Luzerne County, following guidance that was presented by the PA Department of State. These measures include video surveillance and other security measures already in place. The constant barrage of attempts to eliminate drop boxes in our county threatens to disenfranchise voters, distracts Bureau of Elections employees from important tasks at hand during a presidential election, and erodes public trust in the election process at a time when it's crucial to protect and expand access to the ballot. Any decision to remove drop boxes undermines the rights of voters. What does this say to those unable to return their ballots to the mail in time for them to be counted? The absence of drop boxes would force voters to hand deliver their ballots to the Election Bureau, a move that unnecessarily complicates the process for seniors, individuals with disabilities, and those in rural areas. We're less than 4 weeks away from the date of the general election. Ballots are being sent out. Voters are making their voting plans and should have the option to do so by using drop boxes, just as they have since 2020. Voters deserve to feel safe casting their ballot by mail, by drop box, or in person at their polling place. If the county has concerns for voter safety with the use of drop boxes, we must look no further than our county's current climate of political violence and harmful rhetoric about our elections. Here and across the nation, politicians and bad actors are constantly sowing doubt in election results and undermining the work of elections officials with absolutely no evidence to support their claims. This is not fair to them, and it's not fair to the voters. Luzerne County has the opportunity to be a consistent leader in how elections are run in Northeast Pennsylvania and the Commonwealth. We call on the Board of Elections to protect the freedom of every Luzerne County voter to vote in the manner they choose by utilizing drop boxes for the general election. With that, we'll move on to the approval of the meeting minutes from, we have several meeting minutes that were posted with the agenda. July 12th, 2024, special meeting for the adjudication and canvassing of provisional ballots challenged during the April 2024 primary election. It was pages 4 through 8. I re-put those on, they were tabled from the last board meeting. I had done the minutes and Ms. Fusaro had some questions, wanted to make some amendments. We decided to table. And what I did was I posted her minutes. So they're up there. September 16th, 2024, special meeting for canvassing of 2 challenged provisional ballots from the April 23rd, 2024 general primary election. Office of Representative in the General Assembly, 117th District Republican, and first signing of the unofficial results was page 9. September 18th, 2024, regular meeting. And that's the pages 10 through 12. September 23rd, 2024, special meeting for certification of the general primary election, Office of Representative in the General Assembly, 117th District Republican, and all the other races affected by the canvassing of the challenge provisional ballots was page 13. And the last was, is not on there, which is September 30th, 2024, special meeting for the approval of the November 5th, 2024 general election ballot. Mr. Hahn had his hands full doing a lot of minutes and wasn't able to get to the September 30th. Don't know why. He must be a little busy. And so we'll add that to the next meeting's agenda, the September 30th. We have those other meeting minutes for approval. Is there a motion or any amendments to any of these from any of the other members?
I make a motion to approve all the minutes that were presented except the September 30th.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mr. Schlosser beat you to it. Ms. Pissarro, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any abstentions? Opposition? None heard. The motion passes to accept those meeting minutes that were provided except for the September 30th. Okay, we'll move into the agenda items. Agenda item number 1 is Mr. Morelli's motion to eliminate all the drop boxes in Luzerne County. Well, do you want to just make the motion? Go ahead.
Yeah, and if I may, I'd just like to first comment on it as a discussion before we get into it. I don't have a prepared speech, but I do have a couple items that I do need to discuss. And I first want to start out by saying that I totally respect everyone's opinions on both sides on this issue. I think that's what it's all about, of listening and understanding that. But with that said, I do have some concerns, and which is why I put this on the agenda, and I want to explain first. The one thing I want to talk about that nobody had talked about, and that I see from this side and being involved in the county, is outside influence. When this subject came up and it came through the manager because of her concerns with the safety, in my opinion, there was no issue. We understood it. Unfortunately, what I saw, and this is what caused the county to get in trouble many, many years ago, was outside influence. Outside influence who came in for political reasons, for their agendas, and gone and helped to influence and make the changes. And that concerns me. No one's been talking about that, but I've taken a lot of pride in the county and the changes that's taken place in the last 12 years. And I'll continue to say that outside influence needs to stay away. And that's one thing that no one's even talking about. The second thing is security issues. There are security issues. I respect the manager's information that she presented, the information that she got. And if anyone thinks that there are no security issues that are out there and that we shouldn't be concerned, think again. That's why I made this motion specifically to the general election. There are concerns, and something that we as a board have to take the responsibility for. It's made clear. And I want to make sure that, and whether this passes or not, the fact that it's now been brought back to the board, I'm going to support this. And if it goes down, it'll be made clear that I'm not going to be part of it. And it goes back on the people who do support it. So I want to make that clear. And it's one of the other reasons why I put this out there. And I also believe that we as a board don't have a legitimate plan when it comes to the safety of them. And that's a concern. When it comes to disfranchising the voters, I don't believe that at all. I want everyone, as many people in this county, all counties throughout the country, to vote. We push it. There are many ways to vote. You go back to before COVID, there was no such thing as disfranchising. The people went out, they voted, they got it done. And I was all for the ballot boxes during COVID. COVID's over. All right. There's no one here, no one on this board, Republican or Democrat, are trying to stop people from voting. So let's stop with that, because that's just an excuse. And let's get rid of that. And that ties into convenience. When I hear this convenience thing, and I'm telling you, I got to talk about this. So right now we're going to have 2 boxes in Luzerne County, huge county, 300 some plus people, 200 some thousand voters. Now we're down to 2 boxes, two places can't put them in because of security concerns. And if I had to go and drive up to Hazleton, drive into the city, deal with the traffic, deal with some bad drivers, find parking, pay for parking, go into the place, put the box in. Don't tell me that's convenience. I talk to my mother all the time. She's 85. Now, she's not from Luzerne County, but she's far enough, the same distance as I am. And she gets around, she drives. For her to have to do the same thing, and I look at her, from when I look at people who are elderly and hearing all these excuses, and that it's not convenient. It's just not. And then let's add to the safety part. Let's forget about the safety of the boxes. Let's talk about people having to go into areas with people around. I mean, at least if you go to the polls, there are going to be people there. There are going to be people around you. If something happens, you're going to have people walking in some areas. I don't believe that it's convenient or from a safe side. And the other part I'll add, it goes back to us not having a plan, really. I know there's been some talk about the integrity grant and how we're going to secure them. And I don't really know. And with number one, we can't use the money from the integrity grant, from what I understand. I'm not for utilizing the sheriffs and all that, because we're down sheriffs. I think we as a board have to be responsible, not just go out and say you got to spend money. I think the money in the integrity grant, along with other money, should go elsewhere in this election. So with all that said, I thought it'd be wise to put a motion on here specifically, and it's not to get rid of boxes, but get rid of boxes for this election, for many of those concerns I just mentioned. And I'll make the motion to eliminate all drop boxes in Luzerne County for the 2024 general election based upon security intelligent information that was provided to the Board of Election by the county manager in executive session. So I'll make the motion.
I would like to, I'd like to hear other discussion, if that's okay, by others.
Well, is somebody making a second on the motion?
I'm seconding it. But I would like to hear the rest of the board.
Go ahead. You're
and then
next.
I'd
Go
like
ahead.
to,
Go ahead. You can go.
Well, and I'm going to reiterate a little bit about what what Mr. Morelli has stated. We do have security issues that has been brought up, and I don't feel comfortable or at liberty to discuss those, but there are serious threats when it comes to the drop boxes, which also brings me to the compliance issues. We are still unable to provide the proper security for the drop boxes in order to meet the recommendations set forth by the state. And that's a major concern of mine as well as many of the others. There's also fraud issues on both sides of the aisles, from the seals to what I have viewed myself while watching surveillance videos, both in this county and in other counties. And we have along with the compliance issues mentioned, skip back to financial issues. According to our Office of Law, as well as our County Controller's Office, the drop boxes do not fall under the allowable charges under the Election Integrity Grant. So therefore, it creates a clawback to the county. In addition, so that everybody who wants your drop boxes, you're looking at a possible tax increase as well as other things to have your drop boxes, okay? Because you don't understand the amount of money that's involved here. And in addition to that, the insurance will only cover so much, and then the county is on the hook for the issues for any additional issues that come up. And that brings me to the fact that this needs to be a separate line item on the budget because Luzerne County residents need to see how much this is costing them, as well as the need to be approved by county council in the budget. Okay, it needs to be approved by the county council in the budget. Legal issues. We just heard a proud Luzerne County voter threaten legal challenges if we as a board eliminate them. Truth be told, the litigation that the county is currently facing will go away once if the board eliminates them. This is also not to mention that drop boxes were, on the legal side of things, only originally approved to be very specifically by the courts due to COVID. That is over, okay? And with that should be the fact that it is some. But if we're going that route, also in our state constitution, elections and Title 25, elections are to be uniform across the entire state. When the drop boxes are, and mobile elections and all these other things that are happening statewide are put into place, they are not being held uniformly throughout the state. Okay, they are different in every county. When it becomes optional to do certain things, then some counties choose them, some counties don't. And to go with the majority and eliminate them, we are holding true to that our constitution. Manpower issues. We don't have the manpower to secure the boxes properly, not the way that the state has actually said to do so. And finally, the majority of the people of Luzerne County do not want them. Okay, whether that be to trust or safety issues, they don't want them. And we need to pay close attention to those who are speaking, and we need to eliminate them. That's all I have to say on the issue.
Thank you. I'll go. Do you want to go? Go ahead, Mr. Schramm.
Okay, on the drop boxes, people are just indifferent about for them, against them. Most of the times it doesn't even matter. I like using drop boxes because I know people that don't want to go to the polls. And if you want to look at yesterday on the news, I think it was yesterday, how secure are the polls? What did the FBI find the other day of two people, not Haitians, not Mexicans, that were brought in first class on an airplane? What did the FBI find that they were planning to do? They had gone out and looking for 2 AKC rifles, 500 rounds of ammunition, and their plot was to go to a polling place that was crowded and open fire. How do you protect yourself against that then?
Close the border.
They come in. This is not question and answer. It's my time to speak. My
Point of
time
order.
to speak. Yous aren't doing anything because except closing the election, making it harder for people. You want to have people not vote. You cannot secure a polling place. People don't want to go to polling places because they don't know who's there waiting. You know they can't be protected. They just have to walk up to a mailbox and drop it in, or walk up to a poll box and drop it in. It doesn't have to be inside a building. It could be sitting out on a sidewalk. It doesn't say that somebody says anything. Every ballot is tracked. Somebody decides to throw a Molotov cocktail in a ballot box outside in a drop box. All you have to do is find out who put ballots in between that 8 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon, and you can issue them new ballots. You can cancel the old ones and give them new ones. So they're secure. Saying that there is no fraud in the polling place, you only need a couple people to look and say, oh, look, she's out of town. I'll bring my sister in and she can vote for them. Nobody will know. That's easily done. In they come and out. So actually, there is no problem with drop boxes. And there's no problem.
Excuse me, point of
Hey.
order.
No, you're not sorry.
If you continue, I'll have to ask that they ask you to leave. I'm going to recess the meeting. If anybody keeps
That's right.
talking,
Make
and we'll
them
just
face
ask
it.
you to leave. Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Schramm?
No, I'm all for keeping drop boxes because I've seen no valid reason why they should go. Other lies saying people have it's fraud. There are no fraud.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Schramm. Excuse me. Point of order. I'll go next, and then Mr. Schlosser, you can have an opportunity. When I hear other board members saying we don't have security plans in place, I think, wow, yes, we do. We have a resolution that we passed, that we voted on. Maybe these members are new and they haven't read it. And these follow the Pennsylvania state guidelines, and going forward, that's what we always follow, the Pennsylvania state guidelines, not just with drop boxes, but with everything we do here between the board and the election bureau. The separation of what the charter does is it separates a lot of what the board can do and the bureau. And what it does is it creates that there has to be a cooperation because we don't have a budget. That's right. We don't have a budget, and we cannot control the employees or tell them what to do in the election bureau. So what we can do, though, and it is in the law, that we can say we're going to have drop boxes. Commissioner style counties can do that in home rule charter counties that have set up boards like ours. Some are different. There are different variations. This is the Board of Elections, just like in a 3-commissioner. They may choose and vote to have them or not have them. It's up to each county on the county level through the Board of Elections. So we voted. Now, the county commissioners don't administer when they do it. They don't go and bring them out, set them up. They have an election bureau, just like a home rule charter does. And they do the administration process of carrying out the details through a cooperative effort. And we created that resolution. It was done by Attorney Raddick back in 2022. She put that together for the board and the bureau and created that, just like we have an MOU that was created by Attorney Raddick for the budget and for contracts, that we come to this understanding on how we do that. We're going to do that tonight. Nothing was provided to me, or I'm aware of any of the board members, that there was a specific threat in Luzerne County. And that was quoted. Jennifer Pecora, the head of the county's head of operational services, is quoted in the Citizens Voice October 2nd article as stating the same. There were federal and statewide alerts. That was what my indication was. And they were not just related to the ballot drop boxes. There were other issues within elections that were also within these alerts. And no other county eliminated in Pennsylvania their drop boxes. It only happened in Luzerne County. The board approved all of the polling sites, and I know that Mr. Morelli said that he doesn't want to be held accountable, but we voted on all the polling sites. You know, he doesn't want to be held accountable for the drop boxes if we vote for it. But we vote for all the polling sites. And a lot of the polling sites are in elderly high rises. They are in schools. And so we're accountable for all of our votes. We're accountable for every vote that we take, you know, and that's just the way it is. So to say that we're not accountable, we're always accountable. But approximately 20% of mail ballot voters use the drop boxes, and that's a significant number. And they're not doing it for convenience so much. So I don't believe it's that they want it for the security of their mail ballots. They know once they put it in the drop boxes, it's going to get to the election bureau by 8 p.m. on election day. They do not know. There's no guarantee if you put it in the mail that is going to happen. You cannot guarantee something you mail is going to get where it's going. So they like that aspect of the ballot drop box, the security of the ballot drop box. And so I can definitely appreciate why it probably is 20% of the mail ballot voters using the drop boxes. And that's a significant number. To me, eliminating them is not the answer and was never the answer. To me, when there's a concern at the polls, the ballot drop boxes, any election process is, instead of just saying, oh, we're just going to take it all out, is to think first, is there something else that can be done to enhance the security? Now, Mr. Morelli also mentioned that there will only be 2 ballot drop boxes. And I do want to share with everyone that that is going to be the case, it appears. We had 4 sites, and the sites for Wright Manor and Misericordia. With our resolution, it states that the boxes have to be securely fastened. And at this point, it does not appear that that can happen at those 2 sites by the sites. It's the sites saying that they do not want them fastened down. And they can't fasten them down in their private place because of flooring, where they're located. So it's just not a possibility. That's basically why they can't go there. They cannot meet the security requirement that we have in our resolution for those sites. The site at Penn Place and in the Hazleton Exchange Building are secured down and fastened. And so that's just the way it is. It has to be that way. And so we are, at this time, it appears, only have the 2 sites. If anything should change on that, and we hear back within the next day that an alternate plan is made there that could make that happen and the ability to fasten them down, we would certainly let the public know by press release ASAP. But for now, the plan is just the 2. So just to make everybody aware of that, that's where it stands. Hope there's the other thought that maybe for the next election, that would also be a possibility to be able to do that there. So we'll keep the door open for them for future elections, but for now, it appears just the 2. I don't think I have anything else to say about the drop boxes, except that I'm very much in favor of keeping them and will vote that way. Mr. Schlosser.
Say, I think our veterans, hundreds of thousands, millions suffered and died to protect our right to vote. As a gunner on a B-17, my father was shot down on one of the early bombing missions in Germany. He wasted away for 26 months in prison. 2 occasions, they took him out of prison when they found out he was helping prisoners escape, put him in a jail in the wintertime, no heat or anything like that. He had bread and water for 30 days. So that was a total of 60 days on bread and water. So it's very personal to me. The other thing too, we talk about all this vote fraud. I don't know if anybody's a victim of vote fraud. I've been a victim of vote fraud in 1978. I ran as an independent Democrat for the House of Representatives, the same seat that Jamie Walsh got the nomination for. On election night, I won by 300 votes. Thursday, the paper said I won by 254 votes. That afternoon, my mother took a call from the registration office, and they told her that there was a mistake and your son lost the election. So it ended up in being one of the biggest vote fraud investigations in the history of the United States. 300 absentee ballots in Plymouth were all illegally obtained. None of them were legitimate. So if anybody should be against mail-in ballots, I should be. I have a lot of axes I could grind, but I don't want to. So I think make it easy for people, especially disabled, senior citizens, veterans. I don't know of any fraud except the last election from 44 at one instance, but in almost 50 years, I don't know of any other fraud. And the best thing to do if there's fraud, get to the district attorney or get to the United States attorney in Scranton and get some help and get the evidence and let the district attorney and the legal people make a decision on the evidence as whether they can prosecute and make arrests. So I'm in favor of making it easier for people. And I keep looking for fraud, and I still haven't seen it. So I don't know why there's all this talk about fraud. Oh, we talk about stuffing the ballot boxes. Yeah, the ballot boxes were stuffed in 1978, May 16th. And one of the places where my election was stolen was up in one of the courtrooms. So I just want to say that. So I have nothing else to say.
I would like to rebut something that someone said, if you don't mind, Madam Chair. That there was no credible threat. I am currently staring at it right now from DHS.gov, Department of Homeland Security, Office of Intelligence and Analysis, Homeland Threat Assessment 2024. And if you go to page 19, it outlines the threat with the drop boxes very specifically, and the issues that we are facing as far as a full threat assessment from the Homeland Security. And this can be found by anyone on the DHS.gov website. You can certainly go there, and I believe, like I said, let me look, make sure it is page 19. But I believe I had to tell you exactly which document it was. Nope, that's Border and Immigration Security.
Whereabouts in Luzerne County specifically, or the person in Luzerne County, did it say? That's what I was saying.
It is a national threat assessment from the Homeland Security, and anyone can look this up regarding drop boxes. And again, this is on DHS.gov. You can look it up yourself, and it is very specific to drop boxes, and that there is a security alert when it comes to the drop boxes.
Okay. Anything else?
So, no.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to share a second time? Okay, we'll go to, we've already had the two motions, so we're going to go to roll call vote on the motion, Mr. Morelli's motion to eliminate all of the drop boxes in Luzerne County for the 2024 general election. Mr. Schramm.
I'm against it.
That's a no to eliminate. Ms. Fusaro.
Yes.
Mr. Morelli.
Yes.
Mr. Schlosser.
No.
Ms. Williams, no. The motion fails, 3 no, 2 yes. Well, the second item was removed from the agenda, so we're going to go to item number 3, which is the follow-up report from the Bureau leadership on the review of the 245 undeliverable mail ballots from the 2024 primary election.
Okay, so the 245 undeliverable mail ballots we were able to review, and upon our review, it seemed the primary returns brought back were due to voters who were at their alternate address. For instance, the snowbirds who had requested their mail-in ballot be delivered to their home address, and were not delivered to their mailing address. The United States Post Office puts the tags on them that temporarily away. And by and large, that was our noted information. And that's where we're at.
Were there any that you looked through that had issues to be resolved, that you were able to help resolve issues, or were they just all, legitimately temporary addresses away?
They were
things like that?
primarily temporarily away. I'm not thinking of any specific issues that jumped out regarding, for instance, if there was an issue with the address field being incompleted. The vendor that we use for printing is very good at flagging if there's a potential that the address field is not completed before mailing them out, so that we're able to verify with those voters ahead of time. the correct information based off of their record and their applications.
Okay. Anybody on the board have any questions about that? Number 4, the motion to approve the new polling site locations for Wilkes-Barre City Wards 1920. It says Osterhout Free Library, South Branch, 100 Parish Street, Wilkes-Barre, PA, 18702, or Realty Building, rear 59 Parish Street, Wilkes-Barre, PA, 18702. It's on for information, discussion, and board vote.
So for the wards 19 and 20, we did have to move out of the Dodson Elementary School. And so after a very thorough review with some wonderful community assistance, the Bureau is recommending the 100 Parish Street, Osterhout Free Library, South Branch location for this election. The building has a large area that can accommodate 2 polling places, which covers the wards 19 and 20. It's right across from the South Fire Station. And the city has agreed to place signs for handicap parking along High Street. There's a 6-inch step into the building, but the county buildings and grounds is going to install a platform and ramp with a railing to eliminate that step for election day. That'll go in Monday, November 4th. There are areas for passenger ramp with railing to eliminate, there are areas for passenger unloading at the front of the building, and lift transports could drop off passengers there as well. Though, of course, this is a Wilkes-Barre City neighborhood, so parking is a premium. But I think that is fairly common. The second building that we assessed was the rear of 59 Parish Street. The owner was agreeable to the use, but that location does require some platforms for entry to one of the polling sites and would need to be in agreement with the adjoining owner for use of the parking lot. We're looking into that location for next year. Obviously, we're only able to use this location for this election, but I think this is a suitable space to use for the upcoming election in order to ensure our voters are accommodated.
Any questions from any board members?
No. Nope.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the Osterhout Free Library. That's the one you want, right? Okay.
Second.
South Branch.
One
100
more.
Parish.
One more.
Oh,
I'm so
go ahead.
sorry. You did say ADA compliant, correct?
So the site was not ADA compliant in that it had a step, but we have mitigated that by we'll be installing that ramp ahead of the election.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought you said. I just needed to, I needed to clarify for the public. Thank you.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the Osterhout Free Library, South Branch 100 Parish Street, Wilkes-Barre for the Ward 19 and 20 poll site. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Morelli. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any abstentions? Opposition? None heard. Motion's approved for that to be the Ward 19 and 20 polling site. Number 5 is the 2025 proposed budget presentation for review by board prior to presentation to County Council per Board Bureau MOU. It was pages 14 and 15 in the on the agenda for information, discussion, board vote. So I'll and as I said earlier, this process, this MOU that we have, the vote of the board is not to approve the budget. We can't do that because we don't have a budget. What we agreed upon, because this came up a while back in a meeting, that were some members of the board who felt that the board should have some kind of say or in the budget. And this was put together by Attorney Raddick, this MOU. And what we do is we vote in support of or not in support of. And basically what it is it's a way for maybe county council to have an awareness of how the board felt about it, what the board's position was on the budget. And it gives the board and the Bureau an opportunity to cooperatively look at the budget together and talk about it and have a dialogue about it. So I'll open it up to any discussion, information that anybody wants to share or anything. The agenda went out with Ms. Cook's budget. And then what happened was I noted a couple of differences from the county council's budget. And she said to go by the one, and I shared it with the board members, to go by the figures that are on the county council's webpage it was on their agenda for the budget. So
Correct. I didn't update the spreadsheet prior to sending it, so I apologize for the confusion on that.
I also have Mary Roselle, the division head for budget and finance, who is on Zoom. She may be under my name because it's under a link that was sent to me. So she's here as well.
Okay. Oh, yep, I see your name there. Okay.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. I'll start. I'll start with some questions and then any of the other board members. One of my questions was on the contract, the line other contractual services, it's 550.15. There are two different figures for it. One under the election integrity grant had 821,000, and the one initial one, the first one that's noted, had 698,000. So I just wanted to know, like,
so the election integrity grant, anything below that is entirely separate to the general fund budget. That is exclusively election integrity grant, and that's for the year of the fall of 2024 into the spring of 2025. I provided the information relevant to the election integrity grant that we have currently, because it does roll over into the beginning of next year.
Okay.
But that is separate to our general fund. That was purely for the board's awareness.
Okay, I understand now. That's right. It does cover part of 2024 and 2025, the grant, whereas the budget is 2025.
Correct.
So for the other service, the 698 for the 550.15 other contractual services line, like what does that include, the 698?
Sure. Give me one moment. So the other contractual services covers our contract with Dominion, annual software fees, programming, training. It covers our contracts for paper folders, election day supplies, voting equipment, our election night reporting service. Part of our printing costs for our mail ballot print vendor, that is a contracted service, which is why it was pulled from the printing line item as it was put in last year. But because we pay to have them print stuff, mail, and put together the envelope packets, in addition to printing all of our emergency and provisional ballot materials. It was more accurate to put that one under other contractual services and put printing for exactly what it is, printing costs.
Okay, all right. Okay. My next question is, the council budget notes 71,412 under 530.45, which says benefits retirement budget proposal. Wasn't noted on yours and at all, but I was wondering what is that for? I don't see that line on.
So the retirement budgeted item should be removed. It's budgeted at the county level, so that you can disregard that.
Okay. All right. The site rental 550.56, that doubled the site rental from the actual amount in 2024. And I was just wondering, is the site rental the polling sites?
So the actual amount for 2024 has only covered the primary election.
So this budget will include this November.
Right. So the actual amount, if I were to pull the actual in December of this year, would be reflective of the amount that is being budgeted for 2025. Because we've only spent half of our budgeted amount because we only had one of the two elections for this year.
Okay. Okay, the, under, these two last questions I have are for the EIG grant. Under the EIG grant, it has management, $30,000 for management consulting fees. Now, I was wondering, what requirement of the grant does that fall under? Because management consulting fees, is that for the consultant for the Bureau?
Right, so that's under our training costs. That's category 6.
Training costs for district election officials?
Correct. So that's the relevant to.
That's not poll worker training, district election officials?
It's a little bit vague. It does refer to district election officials, but there's also a couple of different ways that we are categorizing that expense. And if you give me one moment.
I personally, I don't think that really applies to the polling. That's the poll worker training cost, that the management consultant fee, 30,000 would fall under that, but that's just my position. My second question
Well,
is.
that's part of he reviews the training materials.
Right.
Our consultant reviews all of our training materials, which are becoming part of the standard operating procedures.
And he does also fall under category 8, which is the preparation and the management of the voting apparatuses, what with putting together our standard operating procedures relevant to the management and preparations of all of our equipment and processes in the Bureau.
Okay, and my last question is the 145,000 that from the EIG grant that's moved over to the general fund. What is that earmarked for? Because doesn't all the election integrity grant funds have to be like earmarked for something specific in these?
That is for the reimbursement for overtime and for our full-time positions that we pay for out of the grant. So our poll worker trainer, including benefits, our elections operations specialist, including benefits, and any additional staffing costs relevant to voter registration under category 9. And I apologize. I'm trying to look at the.
Well, the bottom line is when you do the grant and you do the proposal, the 90-day proposal, you
correct. All of that is
these.
itemized in our 90-day report once I have the actual figures.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Anybody else?
I do.
Ms. Fusaro?
Hi, Mary. Yes. Hi, Mary. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for making the time to come on here and give us the answers we need. I really appreciate you and the work you're doing. Question I have is for the drop boxes. Is there any way to split that out into a line item so that the people of Luzerne County as well as the county council can see what is being expended in that?
We can add any line item that we feel is appropriate, but what's a matter of how we're going to categorize or how we're going to track those expenses then in order to charge them to that line item. So if you're asking if we can create one, yes, we can certainly do that. You will have to decide what you want included in that line item.
Okay, well, I think we would leave that up to Manager Crocomo and the director to this, specifically what would relate to that item. And I don't know if I'm hoping she feels it's appropriate as well to split that out. If so, I would be in favor to approve not approve, but I would be in favor of the budget. Is that possible, Manager Crocomo?
I'll defer to Mary. We can extract items and account for monies. I'm not sure creating a separate line item just for drop boxes is necessary. I mean, we can create line items for polling places,
but I think that that's a little bit too much. But we can account for the monies that are expended to maintain drop boxes without creating a
Okay,
line.
yeah. So sort of like a memo almost?
Yeah, we could put it in a memo, but
We
Okay.
we can track it in Excel or however we want to track it and just, give you those costs outside of creating another line item. If
Okay. I think that would be good. I just would like to make it I would like to make it public as to what the costs relating to securing them and putting them out and transporting them and all of those things, have been, what we're including in that. And I would just like the public to know that.
Sure, a lot of that is going to be allocating time, for our staff to do that. But yes, we can certainly track that.
I really appreciate it. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, anybody else on the board? No. Okay. Is there a motion to in support of or not in support of the 2025 proposed budget?
I'll make a motion
Mr. Morelli makes a motion
to support.
to support the 2025 proposed budget budget for the Bureau. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Schramm, and we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Fusaro?
Yes.
Mr. Morelli?
Yes.
Mr. Schlosser?
Yes.
Mr. Schramm?
Yes.
And Ms. Williams, yes. The motion passes in support of the proposed 2025 proposed budget from the Bureau that they're presenting to the council. The next, number 6, is a motion for the board to approve the process for the Board of Elections and Registration notification to cure for mail ballots with deficiencies for all elections going forward. It's pages 16 through 18 in the agenda packet. I updated it. We had spoken at one previous meeting, and Ms. Cook had brought up the possibility of the board coming in the day before Election Day to address the ones that have gone through the Agilis and have been set aside, to do those so that we don't really basically have as much to do on Election Day, because we do them on Election Day. In addition to the ones that we are removed during the pre-canvassing process that the pre-canvassing Election Day workers find. And so we've been doing them the last several elections. And so it would maybe make our Election Day a little bit easier. And then 2, it would also give the voters maybe an extra day to for the party chairs or their designated reps, should they choose to participate, to contact these voters to make them aware that their mail ballot has a deficiency and how they can cure it. So I updated this document, and it basically tells the process, the standard of procedure of what curing is, and what I just explained is mail ballots with deficiencies and how it would work. And so it would be that the difference from the last few elections is that we would meet the day before at a specific time, bipartisan team, to make these lists. And it also on the last page of the agenda, it shows one of the lists that we fill out. It's the name, address of the voter, the reason for the ballot deficiency, and where and how they can cure the ballot, mail ballot. The ones that have ID not verified or signature not on file, flagged by the Agilis, they cannot vote provisionally. They have to come to the Bureau or make arrangements with them in some way. Sometimes it can be faxed to provide a signature, but they have to contact the Bureau for those 2. The other ones, and they're listed in this on D, the different deficiencies that we come upon, and they're all listed there: the no signature, wrong signature, no date, etc. But we would set designated times. I would get get with all the board members who can make it, make sure it's bipartisan team to make these lists like we did on election day, and also do it on election day as well. And also get with the party chairs to see all four, to see if they're interested in participating. It's, you know, if they're interested, and then we provide them with the lists, copies of the lists, and then you know, it's on them to find the numbers. They somehow do, or contact these voters. We just give the name and then the address. So we've had a good response from the party chairs or you know, or their designated representatives in the past all the elections since I've been doing it, and since 2021. And so that's basically the process. Any discussion, input from the board members?
No. I'll make a motion.
Okay, okay, go ahead. Your motion.
To approve.
To approve by Mr. Morelli. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Schramm. We'll have a roll call vote. And this is for the board to approve the process for the notification to cure for all elections going forward. Mr. Morelli.
Yes.
Mr. Schlosser.
Yes.
Mr. Schramm.
Yes.
Ms. Fusaro.
Yes.
And Ms. Williams, yes. And the motion passes, and we'll do that process. I will be contacting the party chairs ASAP to make them aware of the information and get with them on that. I'll do it by email, and I'll include all the board members in the email. Number 7 is the motion to change the format of public comment. Name municipality agenda item slips required to be filled out in advance of in-person public comment. I put this on the agenda for discussion and board vote. The county council follows this process. If you've ever gone to a county council meeting, you've probably filled out one of these slips. That's what we're talking about. We tried this clipboard, and it became a little, you know, it increased the length of the meeting, for one, because we kept having to remind anyone who came up for public comment to sign the clipboard. Everybody kept forgetting it. And so a part of this is to get the name correctly spelled in the public comments for the minutes. The other part is you are required to state your municipality. And we had a conversation about that. And we've had a conversation with our solicitor. And so I wanted to turn it over to the solicitor to kind of, if you'd like to give us any input, recommendations on this change, if we were to vote.
Yeah, sure. If the board wants to approve it, the board can approve it consistent with what our county council does, but not limit public comment to only those who completed those slips. So I think what the chair does at the county council meetings, he has in front of him the slips, and just so it's a more orderly process. John Doe, Wilkes-Barre City, comes up and speaks, then the next person, and so on. But then, you know, looks out at the gallery after he goes through the last slip and asks, are there any other individuals who wish to comment? You have to open that. You can't restrict it to
just the slip,
just those who are completing those
So
slips.
it's a process to make it cleaner, easier, know the names, know
That's
who's
it.
coming up, not forgetting, but it's not a mandate that you have to, because again, the other problem is you have people who go online and they don't put up, they raise their hand. So I understand that. Now, let me ask you a quick question. And this came up years ago about, I'm all for name and municipality. This will kind of tie into 9 regardless. I do think this is, when you get up to speak, it's a public record, right? That's what I was told. Like you can't get up there and give a false name, or you're lying on the record. And that was something that was discussed many years ago. Just asking the question, like, could someone come up here and say I'm a different name and live in a different municipality?
I mean, we're not in a courtroom. They're
Right.
not taking an oath. So I suppose they could do that. Don't know why anyone would really have any interest in doing
Oh,
that.
it's been
Hopefully
done
not,
before,
but
trust
yeah,
me.
I mean, it's
Oh yeah, yes, it has. And again, that I just remember the discussion. This is why I'm asking the question, but it does. And I just think that, you can't mandate it, but you come here, you're going to be on record. If you're going to say something, you're going to make an accusation, you should have your right name. And I think if you're giving a false name and making an accusation and go back to it, well, there has to be. So I don't know. I'm just
I know
mentioning?
something else that we had discussed is, I wasn't saying just the slips first. Yeah, I would say
Understood.
anybody who, just like we do on here,
Mhm.
it's one, to help with the names for public comment, but also two, that the Sunshine Law does state that a board can limit, a governmental entity can limit public comment to, I've read it, and I just want to check to make sure this is correct.
Bless you.
You can limit public comment to residents of that entity's coverage and taxpayers of that county, say for us. I know you shared that, well, we also do elections. And so if somebody's on the ballot, they should have an opportunity to speak or their designated representative. So I hadn't thought about that, but I think that's probably accurate. But this is what I would be concerned with is somebody saying, well, I'm so-and-so's representative too. Well, I'm so-and-so's rep. So I think that would mean what, either the candidate on the ballot or their one designated representative, because
I'm sorry, are we on number 7 or on number 8? I am so sorry. I'm a little confused. Did we skip
7.
over 7?
7.
We're on 7. Okay. All right. I'm just making sure because we're doing the slips first, right?
Yeah, we're talking about the slips.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. I'm sorry.
So I think that we would need to make someone have that opportunity if they're on the ballot.
Yeah, I agree. I thought about this a bit since the last meeting, and because this somewhat came up at our special meeting, where someone indicated they weren't from here, but then well after the fact, then try to say they represented a campaign or were with a campaign. And I think that's valid, considering business that comes before this board. You deal with elections. There could be a candidate whose name appears on the ballot. It's happening in this election, who is not from Luzerne County. But a decision that this board makes affects that individual. The presidential candidates, the Senate candidates, the statewide, the attorney general candidate. So it's my opinion they should be allowed to address the board on something that's on our agenda, or a representative of their campaign. And that should not be, that does not mean a supporter. It is someone who's representing the campaign structure of that candidate, not just someone who wants to vote for them. But you're correct. I mean, the Sunshine Act clearly states that, and it is already in our bylaws, that it can be restricted to residents and taxpayers of the area served by the agency. In this case, the agency is the board. It does not mean that, and I know Mr. Morelli's mother, and that's number 9, to allow anyone, that's permissible. If the board wants to do that, you can say anyone can speak, but you don't have to. So number 9 is permitted if this board would like to pass number 9.
Yeah.
But what we currently have is okay. It's legal.
So let's start with 7. I know 9 kind of applies there a little bit, but it's a little bit different. So let's stick with the 7.
And that's what I meant. That's what I meant by saying that was number 9. Were we on 7 or 9? And I would like to I would like to say something in this. I would be in full support of this if we could take the word required out, because I think that makes it like very black and white. And then if somebody doesn't, if we can't open it. It feels like almost like we can't open it up afterwards. So would that be okay with everybody?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Kind of, yeah, I'll take it out. Yeah, I didn't think to eliminate anyone. I would always open it up, but really as a matter of tightening things up here, because in helping Mr. Hahn.
And just on that case, because I know that was mentioned during public comment. I mean, people are asked to sign in at various places all the time. I mean, I am as a lawyer. I had to sign into one of our courthouse annexes recently, going to a court hearing. I said my name and the date, and the hearing officer I was going to be in front of, and the time in and the time out. So I mean, unless someone gives me something that I'm not aware of, I think that's fine. That's not
sign in.
compelled speech. I think that's perfectly legitimate. And on the case, and I'm all, what Mr. Walsh had indicated, I'm always willing to take a look at something. That Marshall versus Amuso, Eastern District of Pennsylvania, federal case 2021, that talks about the timing. There was a pretty extreme policy for that one school district, and they tried to limit what people can say. And the court found that you can't do that, that it was unconstitutional. They were trying, that particular board was trying to say that certain things were irrelevant, or someone's comments were offensive or abusive, intolerant, inappropriate were the words used. And the court concluded that the vagueness of those limitations had a chilling effect, and it goes on from there. I don't want to get too far into it. So that is not what you're seeking to do with number 7. Now, if you were trying to limit, again, what people can say, maybe that's a problem. Maybe that case would apply, but that's not how I read your motion.
Nope. So the slips would say name, municipality, or maybe instead candidate on ballot or designated representative in a line there. So it could say that as a third thing,
Sure.
maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
Or maybe candidate on the ballot or their designated
Yeah,
representative.
name municipality and candidate or campaign you represent.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Okay, I'll make a motion to change for these slips for the name municipality or candidate on the ballot slips to be filled out in advance of in-person public comment. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I think Mr. Schramm beat you. Mr.
Nah.
Schramm made the second, and it's for the slips. Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Schlosser?
Yes.
Mr. Schramm?
Yes.
Ms. Fusaro?
Yes, I'm on a delay in Guatemala. Come on now.
Okay, Mr. Morelli?
Yes.
And Ms. Williams, yes. So we'll get those put together and we'll have them available for our next meeting. The next one is item number 8, the motion to have the Zoom platform Q&A application disabled during the Board of Election meetings. I put this on the agenda for information, discussion, and board vote. Just share the reasons why. Public comment is public comment. We don't have a question and answer time. It's meant to be public comment. And it's not eliminating the Zoom platform. We already talked about that. But it comes with this default Q&A. And I can tell you right now, I just looked down at it. It has a 2, meaning there have been 2 comments. And I haven't looked at that at all. I haven't brought that up. And many times I wouldn't even notice it because there's so much going on. There's so much conversation. I'm trying to listen, trying to be attentive. And that's not really a part of our meeting, this Q&A app. We have public comment in person, on the Zoom, people on the phones on the Zoom, and then we have emails that people send in that are read into the record if they request it, as long as they put their name and municipality when they send the email. So it's become, to me, it's a distraction. But the other thing is this, not all of our board members are on the Zoom platform. And I always have it up. Often Ms. Fusaro is, and I notice Mr. Morelli does bring it up. Sometimes, not always, maybe. But Mr. Schramm and Mr. Schlosser, I can say, I've never seen you with the laptop on the Zoom. So if I'm starting to answer questions on the Zoom platform without any of them knowing what I'm doing, and I'm saying things incorrectly, maybe I'm saying something legally that Mr. Attorney Molino has no idea what I'm writing. I don't think that's fair to the other members of this board that I would be doing that. And I don't think we should be doing that. One member speaking for everybody else without them knowing it and answering questions during a meeting. It would also be one more thing that we all have to do. And I think we provide ample opportunity and ways for public comment. So That's my position. I think it can be disabled. I looked it up. I Googled it. And I believe it can be disabled. And this way, anyone on that Zoom platform, this is also the last meeting, two of the Q&As were people who had already spoken in public comment. So and also I've noticed in the past that there are people in the public, I won't name any names, I know them, who have sometimes sent in notes there to kind of something we said to give us a heads up about something. Don't forget about saying this too. Like, I just feel it's a real distraction, and we shouldn't be having people trying to chat in to tell us, oh, you forgot to say this. So that's it.
Okay. So, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were done. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So first and foremost, I owe everybody an apology because last meeting I overstepped during the last board meeting, and I did answer somebody on the Zoom when not only is it inappropriate, but it is the role of the chair, first of all, to answer those things. But also, I felt, in retrospect, I felt that if there was something in there that should have been made public, and that person would forfeit their comment time. So in retrospect to that, I do want to offer a public apology for doing that. Besides that, I have several friends. One is, and both of them, as far as I know, could not be on the Zoom. I don't know if they made it on. And that might be the comments you see. I don't know because I can't see them. You said they already spoke, so I'm assuming that they did not make it on. One of them, his name is Robert Young. He is a good friend of mine, and he's deaf. Okay. Another one is funny. It's not a joke. He is mute. His name is Ronnie, and he is fighting vocal cord cancer right now, and has been for many years, and cannot speak. Both of them cannot speak publicly. And, we did, the chair and I had discussed this, that they could just simply send in an email. However, one of our, we have a duty to the people of this county to allow their voice to be heard. And this is a First Amendment right to speak however they can. Now, you can say that they can just write an email, but as Joe Guaranteed mentioned today, a resident may think of something in the middle of the meeting, and by disabling that chat, you're disenfranchising those who are unable to physically speak. So, I do have a little bit of a solution here, and I think it's appropriate. And that is that if someone does speak on there, it can be checked only during public comment time by the chair and responded to as, do you want me to say this? Because if you want me to, you forfeit your public comment time. And therefore, that allows those who are disabled to actually participate in the meeting. And I think by taking that away, that, if they're in the middle of the meeting and they cannot speak, and actually this friend of mine, Ronnie, actually wants to start getting involved in, some of this stuff and involved publicly. He just moved back to the area. So, disabling that disables his voice during these types of meetings. And I don't think that that's fair, and, would actually not provide that opportunity for him to be able to voice his, type his opinion, or make a public comment on a non-agenda item at the end. If he doesn't have, if he has retrospect in the meeting itself.
Thank you. Any other board members want to give input on that?
I guess real quick, I totally get where you're coming from, and I think it makes sense what you're saying, but I think the best thing to do is keep it for right now. I think Alyssa made some good points. It may stop people from calling in, and so I would just maybe I would say just let's keep it as it is. it gets out of control, we could bring it back up. I mean, it's a discussion item, so that's just my thoughts.
Do Mr. Schramm or Mr. Schlosser have any input?
I would kind of just let it as it is for now, table it, see how things develop with it. And if somebody wants to look at it, Melissa's here, you, and just look at during public comment, what any comments pop up. Just at the beginning and at the end, and that would be the only time.
Okay, well, and Mr. Schlosser, do you have anything to say? Okay, I'll just add that I don't think we should have it. I'm just going to follow up. I think that Lissa's point is that if somebody can always email and send it and say, I'd like this read into the public record, the public comments at the next meeting. The county council does not use their Q&A app. I've never heard them say, okay, we're going to go to the Q&A app now, the question and answer. And public comment is not question and answer. I will, that's all I'll have to say. So is there a motion I'll make the motion to have the Zoom platform and Q&A application disabled during the election board meetings. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Schramm. We're going to have a roll call vote. Mr. Schramm.
Yes.
Ms. Vasaro.
No.
Mr. Morelli.
No.
Mr. Schlosser.
Yes.
Ms. Williams, yes. The motion passes 3 yes, 2 no to have the Q&A application disabled during the election board meetings. We'll now move to item number 9. Excuse me, point of order, point of order. I'm going to make a motion. Okay, Mr. Grantee, I'm going to ask you to leave the room, please. It's out of line. It's inappropriate, please. I'll wait.
First Amendment.
I asked you once before. I said if it continued, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Inappropriate language. It's out of line here.
Why don't we just, Denise, why don't?
Mr. Grantee, if it happens again, I will direct the sheriffs to remove you.
Number 9, the motion to amend the bylaws to allow out-of-county residents to speak during public comment. This was on the agenda by Mr. Morelli for information, discussion, and board vote.
Madam Chair, before Mr. Morelli starts, I want to say something else because that one particular case really ties into number 7 that we already voted on, and now number 9. And it goes on at the end of the opinion to talk about addresses. And maybe this is what Mr. Walsh was referring to. And again, if I don't say it now, I'm probably going to forget that the core rule that a policy requiring that speakers preface their comments with an announcement of their home address, again, not just municipality, 123 Main Street, Wilkes-Barre, could be an unreasonable restriction because of a chilling effect on speech, especially if hotly contested issues. Well, we had that tonight with the Dropbox issue. So the court counseled that to ensure the speaker is a resident, in this case, it was a school district, but for us, we'd say board. The board can collect his or her address with written forms in lieu of a public announcement. And we're not even going that far. I mean, the motion that passed with number 7 has those written forms, but I would not advise, and again, it didn't even pass that way, that we just put municipality. So again, I think we're compliant with everything that's been stated with, Mr. Walsh's citation for this particular case. We are not requiring people to announce their home address. So I just wanted to make that clear.
So now if somebody felt uncomfortable said, I don't want to share my municipality,
No.
could then you say, well, you can write it for us?
I suppose so. I mean, I don't know why that would necessarily make someone uncomfortable, but
If they did, then it's,
you know,
they
we
could
can,
write
we
it
can really
and just share it with just
go
the
down a
board
lot of
members.
rabbit holes,
Okay.
but
But. Okay.
yeah, I mean, that's how I read it.
All right.
Mhm.
So, Mr. Morelli, go ahead.
Yeah, let me explain why I asked to put this on. I know there's been some discussions at our meetings and whatever, and this is true. So my son plays sports, and this happened recently where I was at a field in a different municipality. I saw something taking place, and I said to myself, like, there's a security issue, I thought. And I said, you know, just knowing how I know the process, and the right thing to do is to probably go to that municipality, to go to a board and express my concern over what I saw. And then I said to myself, I was just like, well, I don't live in that municipality. So if I went there and they didn't allow me to speak, how would they know what took place? So, you know, I said to myself, well, that's not right, because even though I don't live there, I go there and I participate, or somebody does, and there's something that I feel that the elected officials should know. And if I don't have the right to go do that, there's something wrong with that. And so I thought back to our position in the conversations, that the fact that we shouldn't allow anybody to speak. I mean, elections are not just for this county, they're for the entire country. There are people who we're voting on that are not just in Luzerne County. And I just feel that we should, the right thing to do is to allow other people to speak. That's all. And that's how I came up with my motion. I think it's the right thing to do. For openness, I'm not for long meetings, trust me, but it is the right thing to do. And that's why I just said, you know what, I think we should do it. So either we agree with it or not, but that's my reason. I think it's the right thing to do.
I'll respectfully disagree. I think that in that situation, you could always write a letter to the municipality and let them know what the issue that you encountered and make them aware of it in another way, rather than going to their board meeting to announce it. I think that since the Sunshine Law allows for residents and or taxpayers of that county for our board in case, but I agree with Attorney Molino that we should consider any candidate on the ballot, because they might not, a lot of our ballots have residents from outlying counties, or, you know, statewide race or a federal race, and or their one designated representative. I think they should be allowed to speak if they have a concern about the ballot, I guess. So that's as far as I'd be willing to go, because this is my concern. If you open it up to anyone and you have say a real social activist or political activist who has a gazillion followers, and they're not happy about, I don't know, the ballot drop boxes. And they tell all their followers to call in, get on the Zoom, here's the link, and tell them, because everybody out of the county can give comment. We could be here until midnight.
That could happen with Luzerne County. And it does happen. We have these meetings and people go on their text and they say, speak up, Dropbox night. I mean, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, with all due respect, if that would happen, it does come down to the chair to say, I'm stopping it. And you can do that. All right. I believe you can. Again, I've had this discussion before, and I'm all for openness and transparency. You don't have to have people speak twice. You don't. There's nothing out there. There's times where, like, I view our meetings. These meetings are for elected officials, people to get business done. That's what they're for. And that's how I look at it. And I've been told it's a privilege for people to speak. I don't know all the rules, and I'm all for it. I've never shut down. But if there's a time where business comes first, and I've been at county council meetings where we were there in the morning getting things done, the chair has to say time out, business first and everyone second. And I think it comes down to, in a situation like that, the chair could step in and say time out. But I just think in general, the right thing to do is, if someone comes in and then you have a national election that's a hot topic, and someone has something that's legitimate or something that is something that we need to know, I think it's the right thing. So listen, we speak our minds. You're on record. We vote yes or no.
Okay.
So
Any other board members want to give any input before we go to the vote?
Yeah, we have been in the news for I don't know how long. Luzerne County, we just have this habit of getting in the news since, I mean, you know, the just many issues. And so we are always in national news. And I think that when it comes to state races, national races, it's not just us that is invested in the election. It's everyone that's invested in these elections. And I personally agree with Mr. Morelli when he says, you know, it's a fact that we have everybody's got a vested interest in how Luzerne County conducts their elections, because as many people other than 2020, Luzerne County has a habit of choosing the president. We have, and whether you like to, you know, like the fact or not, we have. And so I think it's important.
Okay, Mr. Schlosser or Mr. Schramm? Anything?
No.
Okay. There's the motion by Mr. Morelli. Who made the motion? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Ms. Fusaro, and we'll have a roll call vote. And this is the motion to allow out-of-county residents to speak during public comment. Ms. Fusaro?
Yes.
Mr. Morelli?
Yes.
Mr. Schlosser?
No.
Mr. Schramm?
Yes.
Ms. Williams? No. The motion passes 3 yes, 2 no. Allow out-of-county residents to speak during public comment. We'll now move to number 10, which is a motion to amend the bylaws to include the following process regarding board votes. I put this on. This is right out of the county council bylaws. Just adjusted it to change the name of council to the board and to change number 2 from reorganization to any membership change. And what it is reconsideration of votes. Any motion which is defeated by a majority vote of the board may not be introduced for reconsideration at any meeting except as follows. The motion to reconsider is made by a member of the majority that prevailed in the original vote, seconded by any member and approved by a majority vote of the board, or 2, following any membership change of the board. I put it on for discussion and board vote. Again, the county council has this in their bylaws. I put this on because at the February meeting, Ms. Fusaro made a motion out of the blue. We had the Duryea Dropbox location to maybe approve that and look into it, the Bureau. And out of the blue, Ms. Fusaro made a motion to eliminate all the drop boxes in the county. And I challenged that and said, I thought that was a violation of the Sunshine Law because it wasn't de minimis. It's a big issue in our county to do that when it wasn't on the agenda. And Attorney Molino felt that since we were talking about drop boxes, it was okay. And this would apply to anything else, not just drop boxes. I'm using this as an example because I see this maybe repeatedly coming up where certain board members may want to keep trying to eliminate the drop boxes because there's this push, full court press. And I think that this is fair. The county council has this, that to do that, it would have to be introduced by a member that prevailed in the original vote. So that's why it's on. So I'll open it up to board discussion.
So actually, I agree with this because we did do this with council, and I get it. You know, you don't want to keep discussing the same thing just to make a point or, you know, to state your case. So I agree with it. The only thing that I'm concerned about, or I guess I have some questions. So if a vote is tabled, that's still out there. You could bring that right up again. So that's, am I correct? Just making sure. And then I think there's, you know, let's use my vote tonight. My vote, I feel, was different than the vote in February. So as long as there's something specific to it and we're okay with that, I'm good with it. But I do agree that, you know, as I just stated before, you vote your case, you win or lose, you're on record and you move on. And unless something different comes up or there's something else that changes, I'm fine with that.
Other board members?
So I would like to, I would be okay with this if there was a number 3. And that number 3 is new and extenuating circumstances have been brought to light in which a revote is necessary. For example, any security issues, like for that type of thing, then that's something that would need to be reevaluated by the board. And when a reevaluation is necessary, you're kind of handcuffed if you put this into into play. So I would add a number 3 if that's possible. And I guess according to the Sunshine Law, maybe we might have to. I don't know if Attorney Molino would be okay to answer that, but if we could just add a number 3 and say new and extenuating circumstances have been brought to light in which a revote is necessary.
So for protocol, just if I may, so there's technically no motion right now, okay? Because the way we do the agenda, there's a discussion. So this is the discussion. And sometimes there isn't an exact motion, right? We kind of discuss it and then make the motion as we are. So what I'm trying to say is, Alyssa, that from the Sunshine Law, there's no technical motion. And I think that, I guess to the point, you could just make the motion with your third if you want. And I don't think that opens up another comment to the public because it's already on the agenda. I think what she's saying is
She's saying what happened tonight. You put it on the agenda, but it was
I thought she was
because
talking about changing the motion.
she's saying
adding
that
to her
unless
number
there,
3.
like,
Yes,
if there's like, you had new information.
I get that. I totally
So that wasn't a. That's not,
Yeah,
I'm just saying, okay, hey, I'm gonna throw a motion out there. Let's eliminate drop
I
boxes.
get it. I
during the
thought she
meeting.
was talking about
Right.
of adding numbers. I think you
yeah,
could
and
add
adding a number
motion.
3.
Recording in progress.
That's fine. So
That's what I'm saying. I don't feel it.
He's right, who's ever saying that. But beyond that, motion for reconsideration is a term of art under Robert's Rules of Order. It defines it as reconsidering a motion that either passed or failed. That doesn't matter, the outcome, in the same meeting. Now, the way this is phrased, it contemplates future meetings. But again, strictly looking at the definitions in Robert's Rules of Order, that's not the case. Reconsideration is the same meeting. If you want to revisit this in a future meeting, you're doing a motion to rescind or amend something previously adopted. Or another one called renewing the motion. So I understand that the chair obtained this from county council. Aside from a few word changes, county council has this in their bylaws. Again, that's fine. I didn't write it, but they have it. But that's my word of caution, is be careful with the language you use. And also in our current bylaws, under order of business, it says the board follows Robert's Rules of Order in, but not limited to voting order, and abstentions. So that's everything. I mean, it's just the board follows Robert's Rules of Order. period, end of story.
Does it
So,
say, but not limited to?
right, which means that, yeah, but not limited to voting order or abstentions. I mean, it's basically saying it follows it in everything, in all respects. So because our bylaws right now say we follow Robert's Rules of Order, if you're even contemplating doing what you want to do in 10, I think you also need to somehow modify that. In saying you're guided by Robert's Rules of Order or something to that effect, because as it stands now, we're following Robert's Rules of Order in all respects, and a motion for consideration is done at the same meeting. So even if this was in effect without Ms. Fasaro's addition of number 3, Mr. Morelli would still have been able to put item 1 on this agenda anyway. Wouldn't even matter that it's new information, because that's not a motion for reconsideration. So again, just a word of caution. But and Robert's Rules of Order is a guide. It's considered the gold standard for running a meeting, but it's not the be all and end all. Boards can adopt their bylaws and how they conduct meetings, certainly according, within the law, but that's it. I mean, again, so the board can craft some amendment to the bylaws consistent with what the chair wants, but just be careful how we refer to it, what we call it, and be mindful that right now, under our current bylaws, it says we follow Robert's Rules of Order, full stop.
Okay. All right. So with that said, I'm thinking I may table it for a future meeting and maybe relook at it and maybe get with you on
Sure.
that, talk to you about that.
Sure.
But you understand my motivation.
I absolutely do.
And
Mhm.
it's, I just don't think for anything, if it's defeated, that I just think we need to maybe look at that. I don't know if just saying that is enough. So that's all.
So there was a
table it.
motion, but there wasn't a table, so.
So motion to table.
Right, so there's no second, I guess, right? And then if there's no second, it dies, and it doesn't need to be tabled.
However it is.
Just leave it go.
Then I guess leave it go then. I'm just going by protocol.
Okay, so we can just leave it go to another meeting. I can
Because there's no second,
just leave it go.
and let it go.
Okay.
There wasn't even a second. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No
I wasn't
second.
paying. There wasn't even a second to number 10, the
Nope.
underlying motion.
Nope.
Okay,
So
well then
we'll let it
that's,
Okay. Comment on
That's fine.
non-agenda items. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board on matters not listed on the agenda, but which must be within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board, limited to 3 minutes and 1 comment time per person. We'll start with those who are in person. Go ahead.
Good evening, Scott Pressler, Jenkins Township, Luzerne. County, Pennsylvania, and that does not include paper applications. Now, what does concern me is the fact that the mail-in ballots is approaching 8,000 unprocessed voter register mail-in ballot applications. And yes, board, we are aware of the SURE system numbers, and a reliable source has pulled those numbers for us. Now, this board has been in the news for several years. It was in the news in 2020 for throwing out ballots into dumpsters. In 2022, this board ran out of paper on election day in 2022. This board has a history of not making sure that every lawful vote is counted here in Luzerne County. That's why you're in the news. I want to make it clear, this board has said today that an Afghani, yes, an Afghani citizen that was brought to our country because Kamala Harris failed in the debacle of a pullout from Afghanistan. That's why that Afghani national is here in our country. And that person threatened a terror attack on election day. Kamala Harris funded the attack of Hamas and Iran on Israel on October 7th. Any member of the Jewish community that votes for Kamala Harris is voting for the destruction of the Jewish people in Israel. If Democrats care about Black people, then why do they choose to support illegal aliens over the 3.6 million Black children living in our country? If Democrats care about the American people, then why do they choose to put the illegal aliens over 500,000 Americans that are living homeless here in our country? We have 50,000 homeless veterans. Why do Democrats, if they have such passion for the rest of the world, choose to put Americans last? I tell you, Luzerne County is going to vote Republican this November, and we are going to elect Donald Trump. And I want to congratulate the Republican Party and Gene Ziemba and TJ Fitzgerald for making sure that now, for the first time in modern history, there are more registered Republicans than Democrats in Luzerne County. My organization is Early Vote Action. We have 60 staff across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and I promise you, I will use every second for the next 27 days, making sure that we work to elect Donald J. Trump. We elect Dave McCormick to the United States Senate, Cartwright, electing Rob Trump as the 47th president of the United States. I also want to say we're appealing to the Dominicans and Puerto Ricans. The Republican Party is about faith, family, finance, freedom.
Recording in
Mr.
progress.
Schramm was defending deaf people, people who have disabilities in speaking. He was defending letting that stay in place on whatever it is, Zoom. You smiled.
Please address the whole board.
You smiled in a disapproving way, and he changed.
Recording in progress.
Gilbert's past.
Could you address the,
No, I'm going to, everybody else uses names.
Grantee,
Everybody else is
the
using
Board of
names.
Elections, we are about the facilitation of free, fair.
I've been sitting here
elections.
I've been sitting here all day,
Come
and
in here and
I've
smear
heard names
someone
be
is
used.
not what
I've
this
been
is all
called
public comment really should all be about. all
whatever
right?
it is. I could speak to whatever I feel like speaking to. I'm asking the DA, I'm asking you to have the DA look into those 4 votes that were potential voter fraud. I went to the DA, the detectives directed me to you and you, the Bureau and the board. It's up to you to initiate the investigation into the voter fraud that we had, so that we can put this to rest, that there is no voter fraud. And one other thing that the county manager can do is release the video. That would put to rest any conspiracy theories that are thrown upon us, and give us the actual facts of what happened in the 2022 election. And another thing, 20% of people using the voter drop box is not a majority of the Luzerne County. Those voters don't approve of them. And if you really wanted security, you would have people remove their masks as they're using the drop boxes. And I was going to ask that you enact polygraph tests for people in the election bureau. Yeah, smile. Go ahead, smile. I'm just asking that you take a polygraph test, because that would tell everything.
Thank you very much. Okay, anybody else in person?
Yeah.
State your name and municipality, please.
Matthew Contreras, taxpayer. I'd like to start.
Wait, taxpayer is not.
I'm a taxpayer of Luzerne County. The Sunshine Act gives the public the right to comment on issues that are or may be before the board. Agencies must provide a reasonable opportunity for residents and that we were discussing before. State, correct. So, and does this election board also accept federal money? Can I?
We don't
somebody-
have, we
You
don't have-
receive no federal funding for elections.
No. General fund.
The general fund,
Well, the
yes.
Hobbit, well, the Hobbit.
Yes, you do.
Also, by the way,
$10,000.
That's correct. So
The
you
election
receive
board
both
doesn't receive
funding
any
from the Commonwealth and funding from the federal government. Therefore, anybody who comes and would like to speak here is a taxpayer. So respectfully, anybody who would like to speak, who lives as a resident of the United States and is a taxpayer or is a resident of the Commonwealth can come and speak. So let's please not reinvent the wheel here. This board has no authority to legislate what already has been legislated in Harrisburg. And what Representative Walsh said before is very true. So let's not reinvent the wheel here. Second of all, I would advise, it's absolute insanity. Anybody can come up to this podium and say whatever they like, as long as they're not inciting violence or physical harm to you or the members of the board. Period. End of story. That is the right of the First Amendment, and that's what the First Amendment protects. Even speech, Ms. Williams, that you may not like. And I'm sorry if you don't like it, but you know what? That's what the First Amendment is. That's what our rights are. And it doesn't matter, well, you know, this might make me feel uncomfortable, or I don't like what that person might say. It doesn't really matter what you think or what your opinion is. What the law says is what the law says, and that's just the bottom line. So please, solicitor, give this board some good advice and tell them to stop compelling people's speech from this podium, because it's really ridiculous at this point.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think this board passed any motion prohibiting.
Well,
anyone from saying anything.
and respectfully, she keeps telling people they can't use certain words, they can't use that word, unless they're threatening violence, that she can't compel somebody's speech.
No, it was when a member of the gallery was speaking out when it wasn't
Okay,
public comment. And he was
my
saying-
time is limited, madam. I don't want you to eat into it like you did last time. And exactly, because you keep you keep interrupting. I'd like my minute back then, please.
Thank you.
Would you mind giving me my minute back?
You don't have a minute.
Okay, well, I'll thank you. I appreciate the 15 seconds. At the last meeting, you promised that a running ticker of what was available in terms of registrations and in terms of mail-in ballots would be provided on a weekly basis, not a statement that came out in a written form. You said it would be on the website. So we'd like you to keep your word. We'd like to see the running tab of registrations and mail-in ballots that this county has processed or it has not processed on your website, as you had promised.
Your time
Thank
is
you
up.
very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, is there anybody else in person who'd like to speak? Go ahead.
Lisa Evans, Dallas Borough. I was here in August and I see parents receiving political information and who to vote for at my residence. My mom and dad, one is dead for 3 years, the other one is 4 years. But this week received notice, my mother, at my address, because everything's been forwarded to my address, that says government document enclosed, do not discard. Then inside it says register to vote now. This paper here is already filled out with her name and her address, which is my address now. My concern is if she's deceased, this paperwork came from Texas, an election mail service. How many other people are receiving this, filling this out? And why doesn't this go to the Luzerne County election board instead of, this is supposed to be mailed to Harrisburg? So something's not right. And if I'm getting this, how many other people are getting this? And how many people are filling this out? And maybe something's done that's illegal. And I don't think that this should even occur. And I don't understand if deceased people are even receiving any kind of paperwork like this. If they're already off the voter rolls, why do they still get paperwork like this? So anybody could have picked this up, filled this out, and submitted it and maybe put in an illegal vote. That's all I need to say. Thank you.
So can Madam Chair, if I may,
I'm
I
going to
would
turn
like
it over
to,
to Ms. Cook to share once again.
Yeah,
about
okay,
if you
all
would
right.
mind the third party mailings that go out and they're not a part of the election bureau and they're for application, they're applications, but go ahead. They're not, it's not a ballot that you're filling out.
Sure. So again, there are third-party groups that are sending out mailings to.
You said all that the last time that I was here, but
Correct.
I'm just telling you, anybody could fill that out. It says to return it to Harrison, and they'll decide whether or not you do a mail-in ballot, or you could, what was the other one? Mail-in ballot, or to just to vote in person.
They're not getting
By
that.
mail or online.
They're not getting that necessarily from a voter's roll. Those groups get lists from a
From-
lot of different sources.
Right.
If, you know, if it goes, anybody could, but it's.
The whole idea that it was received and it's a deceased person, right? How do you not know that this is actually gonna go through if somebody shows up, since you don't need ID to vote? And somebody could say that they're Carol Koch and that they wanted to vote on her.
She would be purged already formally.
She's deceased.
She's
Right.
deceased.
So
yeah.
her existing record would show that she was canceled due to a death.
Can we do a test on that and send it in and see what happens?
Yeah.
Send it to Harrisburg.
Well, you can absolutely do that, but that's illegal. So I wouldn't
I mean,
recommend
send
it.
don't send it to us. We don't want it. We don't want it. And that's, it's not official.
Going to Harrisburg, but who knows that? You're saying it's not official, but when people get that.
Harrisburg would have, they will have the information that your mother is deceased and off the rolls.
Null and void it.
They wouldn't process it. We wouldn't process it.
You vote. You vote.
We had
can't
that situation.
We can't control the third parties that send that information out. And we can't control, and we certainly can't control a group from Texas. And we cannot control where those third party organizations get information. Information is out there. Unfortunately, it's out there from a lot of different sources.
So I would like to say something, and I'm gonna spell this right now. Here's why. Okay, my boyfriend's mother had passed away about she passed away, and it was a few years ago, and I actually went into the bureau. I didn't say anything to anybody. I just said, could you check on someone's voter registration for me? And I gave them her name, her date of birth, and they said, well, she's showing up that she passed away. This was not even a week after she passed away. Okay. And I had just gotten on the election board, and honestly, I wanted to test my theory. And I did that. I asked, can you check on someone's voter registration? They looked it up, and it had shown that she had passed away. So I'm telling you this because there will be an alert, especially if you were to check on that. And I'm sure that if you sent Ms. Cook an email with the information, it would show that, and that's why you got a register to vote paper, okay? Because register to vote, okay? Not correct. If you had gotten a mail-in ballot application, that might have been a little bit more concerning, but, email the information to Ms. Cook and she will check it.
Recording in
Name,
progress.
municipality, please.
first of all,
Could you state your name and your minute?
Desiree Edwards, Swarsville.
Thank you. I don't know why this all has to be so difficult. Go ahead.
We agree with you.
You're all about not disenfranchising the people with their vote, and we need to have drop boxes all over the place. But then you want to shut up comments and disenfranchise the disabled people that want to talk and say how they feel or if they have questions on the Zoom that you want to disable the comments and disenfranchise the voters that vote for Luzerne County, that they can't comment or speak. But you're all about not disenfranchising for the drop boxes. That seems like very hypocritical, because you're all about the poor people that need the drop boxes, the disabled people for the drop boxes, but yet you're not for the disabled people for the comment on the Zoom. That makes me sick. So anyway, as far as no fraud, Mr. Schlosser, my father
address
was
the board as a
91
whole.
years old. I took him to vote. 91 years old, I took him to vote for the last presidential election. Walked him into the place. We went up. He went to the girl. She pulled out the poll book. I'm sorry, you already voted by mail-in ballot. I looked at my father. I took care of my father. My father never mailed by mail-in ballot. I always took my father to the polling place. They told him you could fill out a provincial. No, when he saw the paperwork involved in a provincial, he said no. I said, then we're going over to Penn Place. He goes, no, I'm disgusted. Just take me home. Plus, my father is a veteran. He said, I am disgusted. Take me home. So I took him home, walked him up into his high rise, and I said, I'll be back. I'm going to Penn Place. I went to Penn Place and I talked to the guy behind the counter. First it was a girl, and then she got me a DA from behind the counter, or somebody that's in with the DAs. They brought the poll book over, and it was not my father's signature. I left my name, my phone number, which I was told to do, and that the district attorney would get in touch with me. To this day, 4 years later, almost to this day, the district attorney never got in touch with me. So the district attorney did not investigate that. So what else is he not investigating?
Thank you very much for your comment.
And why don't you just put the drop boxes on the ballot and let the citizens vote for them?
Okay, thank you. Anybody else in person? Go ahead.
Sorry. Unintentional. Gavi Shapiro, Kingston. I'd like to comment on Mr. Granteed's comment. If there were a Republican, let's just say, for example, your best friend Desiree Edwards, in charge of the election bureau, and on election day, a large number of only Democrat-heavy precincts ran out of paper on election day, I firmly believe that you would be up here, rightly so, at this podium, calling her out by name and rightfully suspicious of her motives. Beth Gilbert was in charge of this election bureau when this occurred in heavily Republican precincts. And it seems to bother you more that people bring this up than that it occurred in the first place. Thank you.
Anybody else in person? Oh, go ahead.
Robin Koshan, Dallas Township. One thing I'd like to know is the chair stated tonight that the Wright and Misericordia drop boxes will not be used this year due to security. So I'd like to know, does that mean they were not secure in past elections and we are supposed to believe all those votes were valid? Doesn't make any sense. While the Election Bureau may be working to improve our election process, staff training and education are still sorely amiss. Mail-in ballots, voting on demand, and drop boxes have severely complicated voting for all involved. When asked how to find the County Bureau's weekly status report, Bureau staff said they don't know. Voters call the Bureau to request clarification, but they don't receive it. Then driving to the Bureau to ask in person, we are treated with disrespect, indifference, and given incorrect or no information. A recent line of very frustrated voters were told there is no voting on demand at the Bureau, even though the Department of State website indicates there is. We were told that if mail-in ballot, if it wasn't received in time for the election, we'd have to vote provisionally. Yet then we received contrary information that if such was the case, we could vote on demand at the Election Bureau. So which is correct? How do we know? The county website indicates mail-in ballots were being mailed on Monday, October 7th. Yet the State Department's website indicates they're still not available as of today, the 9th. Likewise, voters were told mail-in ballots weren't ready, so they could not vote on demand on Monday, and we'd have to call back at the end of this week. I myself received a Department of State email dated 10/8 indicating my ballot was being prepared for mailing. I hand-delivered mail-in ballot applications for both my husband and myself on September 23rd at 3:30 p.m., but he has not received any similar notice from the State Department. When asking the Bureau if I could submit a mail-in ballot cancellation form on the 7th, I was told no, because my mail-in ballot was already sent on Friday, October 4th. So which is it? How are we to know? As stated, more time has been wasted focusing on drop boxes than rectifying the processing problems through better education, training, and hiring. Experiences such as this and our repeated botched elections are exactly why frustrated citizens attend these meetings. We are hoping to resolve issues. That's why we bring these matters to your attention. But as you stated tonight, there's no question and answers. So when and how will we get answers? Too often we are told we are a threat for exercising our constitutional right to redress our government by asking for accurate information in fair elections. That's not working to improve the election process. Thank you.
Jamie Walsh, Ross Township. So just going back to something maybe we could look into, it states in the Sunshine Act that it's a resident or taxpayer of the political subdivision, okay? So the minute I go into a political subdivision and I purchase something, I become a taxpayer. And if you look up the definition of taxpayer, it's very simple. It's one that pays or is responsible for paying a tax. So if I go into a political subdivision and I buy dinner or I buy gas or I buy a pack of gum or a can of chew, I pay tax on that. I immediately become a taxpayer of the political subdivision. So it does not say property taxpayer. It says resident or taxpayer. So I just wanted to get that clarification done. Thank you for putting drop boxes in Hazelton and Broad Street and Penn Place, the highest concentration of illegal immigrants that we have in the county. That makes all of us in this room feel very safe. Thank you. Safe and secure, as you expected. A friend of mine, her mom called me up. She said, "How do I make America great again?" I said, "Well, you're a Democrat. You got to switch your party to Republican and vote for Donald Trump in the fall." So I went over and I helped her fill out her form. And she's 80 years old. And she got 5 registration cards in the mail the other day in Sweet Valley. Are 5 ballots going to follow up that, or what was the glitch? Why are people? Then I saw a Facebook post. Someone got 6 registration cards. There was a post on Facebook. Now this happened to me personally because half of what you believe or half of what you see on Facebook isn't true. So I'm like, okay, well, it happened to me. with someone that I helped change their party because she wants to make America great again. So can someone tell me why she got 5 registration cards?
There was an issue with the uploading the file to print from the Shore system. And so there were a number of voters throughout the course of, I believe it was 2 days, that received duplicate ID cards. Unfortunately, because we're unable to sort out the voters that were receiving the duplicate ID cards, it wasn't showing on our end that they were receiving duplicates. It was only showing that they would be receiving one. And so obviously we can't remove valid ID cards, but that issue was resolved. Like I said, it only took about 2 days before it was fixed on the end of Harrisburg. It was something that we had identified as an issue pretty much immediately as we're now printing out 1,000 ID cards.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And then just, will she also get multiple mail-in ballots?
No, so all that was the ID cards. If you look at the ID card, it has the same exact information.
It did,
It's not a multiple registrations. She's only one registered voter. It was just ID cards. It was just copies of the card itself. You only
Okay.
get one ballot. You only have one registration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Nina Ropa, Kingston Township. I have sat here between last month's meeting and I heard all about how people cannot get to the second floor of the election bureau. That's why they need drop boxes. They have autoimmune diseases and, well, in 5 days, I'm going to be 81 years old. And I'm telling you what, I never got hit by a car walking across the street to vote. Can you imagine that? In 81 years, that never happened to me. Now, I have 2 autoimmune diseases and 3 heart conditions, but I love my country. And I'll tell you what, 40 years ago, by the grace of God, I switched from a Democrat to a Republican. And that's when I learned that we live in a constitutional republic. I hear Democrats talking democracy, democracy, democracy. They're too stupid to even know where they live. And I'm telling you, I was offended tonight by some of those people that called in and talked. I am so proud to be among these group of people that Hillary calls a basket of whatevers. Yes. And I will never, ever. I've lived in France. I've lived in Belgium. We were in NATO. I just know that there are people in this country that would go anywhere. We've seen people in the Mideast put up their purple finger because they got to vote. And yet these lazy people can't even get to a poll or a mailbox, which we have a lot of. And Beth McBride, I'm sorry, you talk about election integrity. You said it was settled. Sure, it was settled. Manager Kromokolo settled it, what, several weeks ago. But who? It was Beth McBride that went to the ACLU and got the whole thing going again. So now you want it settled because it's your way now. Thank you.
Next.
Okay. What did you do to this microphone? Broke it. Gavi. Okay. My concern tonight is this board. Oh, I'm sorry, Walter Griffith, Trucksville. My issue tonight is similar to what I brought up earlier. There's a revised guideline. This board needs to pass a new resolution to enforce this guideline. This guideline, 2023. There's some significant changes in here that this board should have put in place. They're not in place for security measures on these drop boxes. Please consider that. Instead of considering how we're going to stifle the public and make these meetings toxic and make more people angry about their election process by taking away their voice and putting stupid stuff on the agenda saying that we can't speak unless we put in a stupid paper and all this other nonsense that we're doing as Democrats want. Because if you look at the agenda, most of the agendas that are offensive are initial DW, Denise Williams. Read the agenda. Okay? My problem is we're trying to take the temperature down. We're trying to make people not so upset with the election process. And at every one of these meetings, all we do is inflame the public with their stupid rhetoric about how we're going to stop the people from talking. We won't address the fact that we're using a bad policy, which the board is responsible for. We won't address the fact that we have a mail-in, in-person process that goes on to cost the Bureau double the money plus triple the effort to do voting, because we don't want to address that. We might offend somebody, but then we'll complain that nobody can get voting done because we got too many ballots out there because it can't be done. We have in-person voting going on today with people who are sending in a mail-in ballot application. This is ridiculous. And this is what the state is doing. And this board doesn't think it's impossible. Send them a letter. Send the Department of State a letter and say, this is not productive. You're costing the county tons of money here, tons, with wasted staff, wasted effort, because somebody who's filed for a mail-in ballot now thinks he should come in and vote in person. The staff sent out an application to that person, sent out a ballot to that person. We're waiting for them to turn in their ballot, and they come in and said, I don't trust the mail. I'm going to vote in person anyway. All of that effort that we did was wasted time, wasted money of taxpayers' dollars. But what does this board want to talk about? Let's talk about how we can stop people from talking at this podium. This is ridiculous. This board needs to be responsible and stop with the nonsense. Stop it. Do your job. You want to be in charge? This board wants to be in charge. All you do is say, we want to be in charge. We want to tell the manager what they're going to do. Good. Be in charge. Take charge of elections and tell the manager the right way to run business here. Stop it. This is nonsense. Thank you.
Anybody else in person?
Can I just ask, if maybe for the next meeting, what he mentioned about that new policy, if it is, can we add that to the agenda?
Thank you.
Wow, go figure. I'm going to be the coolest person in this room for once. Wow, guys, you've been taking notes.
Name and municipality, please.
My name is Theodore John Fitzgerald, Newport Township. Please call me TJ. Okay, I have a question about voting in person. When I go and vote in person, anybody who goes in person, what happens when you go up and you want to vote? What's the first thing they do?
Are you talking about at the polls?
Yeah, at the
or-
polls.
Okay. I believe they ask you your name.
And then what they ask for? Or what they do?
Ooh, that's a tough one, but I
They
think they
check the
check
polls,
your,
right? They check the polls, right? They check a book,
correct. They
correct?
check your poll book to make
Okay,
sure that
to
you're
make sure-
registered to vote in that precinct.
Gotcha. And then they ask for a signature, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Then after that, you get the permission to go and vote, correct?
Correct.
What do they do at the ballot boxes?
At the ballot marking device or at the
No, at the
scanner?
ballot boxes, when you bring your drop boxes,
Oh.
Thank you, Ramona. Appreciate it. What do they do there?
You drop off your ballot.
Nobody asks for ID or a signature? Why not?
They don't do it at the mailboxes either.
I honestly don't think that's why I don't want voting by mail either.
It's a
Because-
state law. It's not something that the board here
I
came
get
up with.
that.
So
But what
that would
what
be
I'm
something
saying
you
is
have an
at the
issue with
drop
your
boxes,
legislature.
since we have security issues and things like that at the drop boxes, can we get a person to be at the drop boxes? I suggested it earlier at council yesterday. Can we have somebody trained so when people come up, they have the voter roll right there, verify they're not an illegal alien or someone that doesn't. So they could check the voter roll right there. Thank you very much. And then make sure they have one ballot and put one ballot in. Can we do that? since we want election integrity.
Do you have any
So
other-
so can anybody that is funding, can we fund that? Can we make sure that, you know? So I think that's a remedy that would calm a lot of people down. And that's a positive thing to do. If we really do want to make sure that that person isn't putting somebody else's ballot. Really simple, very nice. Would everybody calm down a little bit on that? There you go. Oh my God, TJ's the coolest person in the room. Kumbaya. Wow. So basically, why don't we have some solutions to these problems instead of creating more problems? Let's have some transparency. Let's have some integrity. Let's not be hypocritical. Let's level the playing field for everybody and make sure that only United States citizens can vote. And we try to put any loopholes, tighten those loopholes so there's no loopholes, and make sure that our
Thank
votes
you.
count and no illegals do.
Thank you. Anybody else in person?
My name is Gina Mancato, and it's been brought to my attention.
Your municipality, please? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it either.
Gina Mancato.
And your
I didn't say it.
municipality, Gina?
So anyway, it's been brought to my attention that people are going into the office to do the in-person on-demand voting. And this one? Sorry. Ooh, I like that. Anyway, people are going in person to vote and they're bringing in their ballots and it's taking around 45 minutes, I've been told, to vote. And I'm told that there's long lines. I know you guys are behind on processing the mail-in ballots. So I know a lot of people are worried about, one, are they going to get their ballots? And are you guys disenfranchising people by delaying them? I mean, in my county, I'm in and out in less than 15 minutes. So is there anything?
In your county? What county is that?
Pike County. And we're in and out. So I'm just wondering why it takes 45 minutes. I mean, is there anything that you can do to get people in and out since there's long lines, I'm told?
Well, first of all, I want to thank the controller, Walter Griffith, who is helping us in our staging area in the lobby. And the reports that I get is that it's not 45 minutes. And I have not seen a line. My office is in Penn Place. I walk through Penn Place, especially during elections, to make sure everything is okay. I do not see a line at all. Walter?
About 15 minutes most.
Yeah.
Depending on how many people in line.
Okay. I was told by somebody who was here tonight that they were there in line to drop some stuff off and it took them 45 minutes the other day or whatever day it was, but okay. Thank you.
And I really do want to thank Walter. We have a good team and it's very organized and coordinated.
Working well. It's working well. Tomorrow, bring them down.
Okay, anybody else in person? I don't see any hands, so we're gonna move to the Zoom platform. JN?
That's what happens when we give you a
Yeah, hi, this is Jay Notes Masso from Wyoming Borough.
Okay, go
Can
ahead.
you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, well, first I want to thank you for your vote, for the drop boxes, appreciate that. Also, I need to call out Mr. Shapiro once again for his inappropriate comment about Beth Gilbert. She has nothing to do with board business. Nice try with the attempt at censorship, but again, a big fail. Also, I'm on the pa.gov website looking at the Sunshine Act, and in case you're not sure about it, this agency, the Board of Elections, are permitted to limit comments to residents and taxpayers of the area served by the agency. So I hope you reconsider this vote again, allow outsiders to speak. It is 9:30. This meeting has been going on for 3.5 hours. If you allow people to speak and worse, refuse to give their location and what county they actually are from. These meetings are just going to go on and on and on. These people are not paying taxes in this county, and they're sucking up the resource and the time and the energy of the good people that are here. And another thing, every person that has spoken outside of our community is against the drop boxes. Everyone in the community in our county have been speaking for the drop boxes. So just keep that in mind, and I appreciate you.
Anything else, Mr. Notar Tomaso?
That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
Madam
Debbie Harris?
Chair,
Oh, I'm sorry. Who is that?
Madam Chair, I would like to say something. Mr. Notar Tomaso, I'm so sorry for mutilating your name. I do want to mention that it seems appropriate for you to make a comment to someone who makes a comment to Ms. McBride, but yet during the county council meeting last night, you made a comment about me that was unfounded and actually slanderous. So I'd appreciate it if you didn't do something like that again, okay? Thank you.
Let's move on to the next public comment, please. Mr. Herring?
Rules for thee, but not for me. That's what you hear on these calls, like whoever that last caller was. My goodness.
Your municipality and your name?
Yeah, I live in Duryea for the 100th time, Denise. So to my fellow citizens, let me start there. You hear a lot of frustration due to the conduct of the Luzerne County Election Board. That's why the temperature is going so high. It's only going to get worse. This election is the most consequential election of our lifetime. We're either going to restore freedom and make America great once again, or we're going to go towards communism. I don't care what any of these other callers say. It doesn't bother me one bit. I don't even listen to it. It's a joke. That's where we're at. Luzerne County at one point in time was 40,000 registrations behind between Republicans and Democrats. Due to the good work of a lot of people sitting in that room tonight, who I have a lot of respect for, we have flipped it to a Republican majority county. The will of the voters is speaking. It's speaking every single week in this county, and it's happening. To my colleagues there in the room who actually go to, meetings in person and don't sit behind a computer screen, like many of the callers tonight, I respect you. I commend you for what you're doing. Don't lose hope. We are going, if there's drop boxes or not, it does not matter. This is going to be an election that's ran the right way. We're going to make sure of that. There will be surveillance on those drop boxes. Rest assured. We're going to be watching every single move of this election coming up. That is a promise. What the chairwoman of this election board has done to degrade this election board in the last couple of years is deplorable. I believe it's conduct 100% unbecoming of somebody in that position. I've said this before. It's only gotten worse. It doesn't get any better. Your disdain for Republicans is so blatantly obvious and disgusting, to include your fellow board members. You just tonight are almost a definition of viewpoint discrimination. You will constantly try and tell somebody they can't address what they want to say, or they need to address the entire board. And in the next breath, allow somebody of the opposing viewpoint to do exactly that. The hypocrisy and just deplorable attitude that is displayed in this meeting is disgusting. And I will be sure that we're going to look at our legal avenues, because this viewpoint discrimination has gone on long enough. If the Luzerne County Council does not do something to fix the hyper-partisan nature of this board, then the voters are going to have to do something about it. We need a referendum or something. We need to fix this election board, because we're probably the only Republican-ran county that has a Democrat-ran election board. And your guys' partisanship shows up every single meeting. Have a great night.
Thank you very much. We're going to go to Mark Schaefer, please.
Yeah, Mark Schaefer, Wilkes-Barre. And Benny, I have a job that works till 6 o'clock. That's why I have to be on Zoom, no matter what personal attacks you try and make. Um, so I just wanted to thank the board for having some common sense and voting in favor of keeping drop boxes. It's really important, as we've all covered a million times. And as much as the anti-Dropbox people want to make this a partisan thing, it's really not. It's almost every Democrat, most independents, and a majority of Republicans that support drop boxes. It's just a sliver of the Republican Party that comes out and has these views. So it's not viewpoint discrimination. It's just basic representation of the will of the people. Just because you vote Republican doesn't mean you hate drop boxes. I do think it's very ironic that Mr. Morelli said that the reason we need to ban drop boxes is because of outside influence, and then he goes ahead and votes to allow grifters like Pressler to come in from out of the county and speak at the meetings. Only people who live in Luzerne County or pay taxes in the county should be able to speak at these meetings because, as Jay said, this meeting is now 3 hours long. I logged off because I had work to do. And I am so sorry that you guys still have to be here. This is really an embarrassment. When these people talk about how Luzerne County is known for our elections, I can tell you what it's like. I have family from out of the area and family in the area. Their response to this is disgust at these types of people who come in and spread these lies. Mr. Fitzgerald, Mr. Griffith can say that the board needs to bring the temperature down. That's like making up a rumor about someone and then saying, why aren't they denying this rumor? They've been spreading all kinds of lies about the election and how it's being stolen. And then when people get angry who believe their lies, they blame the board. It's not the board's fault that there are people out there that believe ridiculous lies. It is your fault. Stop spreading these lies and the temperature will come down. If you want the temperature to come down, stop saying the election is stolen. Stop saying it's going to be communism if we have drop boxes and other ridiculous things. It's insane to spread a lie and then blame people who are fighting your lie for this existing. I don't know what else to say. I'm very sorry for you as a board that you have to deal with this, and I thank you again for putting it up with it. I know people in elected office don't get thanked enough, or appointed office. Thank you for all you do, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Okay, and Brianna Ribka, go right ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brianna Ripka from Fairmont Township. I want to sincerely thank the board for the yes vote to keep the 2 drop boxes in Luzerne County. I appreciate all of your patience and your time that you have given this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rabo? Mr. Rabo?
Madam Chair, this is Mark Rabo of Hazelton speaking. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, because the vote happened, I know the socialist Marxist mob is happy and thrilled, but I'd like to kind of clarify on something that maybe you can't accept or you don't seem to understand because there's not enough brain cells in your head to put one and one together. Act 77 of 2019 says that only if you're going to use mail-in ballots, the legal delivery option of those mail-in ballots is by U.S. Postal Service mailboxes. Period. End of story. Nowhere does it say ballot drop boxes are a legal option. Only the Pennsylvania Supreme Court in 2020 allowed them because then Secretary of State Kathy Boockvar, like Beth Gilbert, having no experience in conduct of elections because her friend was the county council chair and she got her to get her the job as the deputy director of elections during that year, said, gee whiz, ballot drop boxes. And you, Madam Chair, pushed for ballot drop boxes since the beginning. So I'm not even saying that. You've been consistent. I'll give you that. But nowhere does it say that ballot drop boxes extended, that option extended past the emergency declaration of COVID. So therefore, this board overreached its authority even under a ruling because the ruling now is invalidated. Okay? So if you want ballot drop boxes indefinitely, why don't you go to your state legislators, the same ones you had heckling you or with you, at the county courthouse in front? Why don't you guys have the state, Senator Marty Flynn, like I said last night, he's on the Law and Justice Committee. He could introduce legislation to make ballot drop boxes permanent, but you won't do it because it won't pass. So therefore, and I would allude to what Mr. Morelli said earlier on the drop boxes, I don't want this to go on and on either. But the fact remains, this is going to go on and on because of the fact that there is no settlement to this on the state level. And furthermore, I would also like to point out to you, Madam Chair, 40 out of 67 counties do not use ballot drop boxes. Let me say this again as a statistical fact. 40 out of 67 counties do not use ballot drop boxes. And I'd like to point out specifically the counties surrounding Luzerne County do not use drop boxes. Schuylkill, Carbon, Columbia, and Susquehanna counties do not use ballot drop boxes. So therefore, this is only the small fringe of socialist Marxists who want to impose on the rest of the residents and taxpayers of Luzerne County. And also the other states that were mentioned by your friend, the other states that were mentioned by your friend, it's codified under the state legislature of those states. So if you want it.
Very much, Mr. Rabo, your time is up. I don't see any other hands up on the Zoom platform. If there's anyone who's on a phone who would like to speak, just jump right in.
No one. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, Mr. Morelli makes the motion. Is there a second?
So moved.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.